By Yan's arrival, 3. Cold in her eyes, Xingyi refuses to show her weakness in front of the enemy that's quickly descending on her location. I'll give you one last chance. Are you willing to surrender? Muzhen makes a condescending stare from above like a hunter that's captured its prey. Death is nothing to be scared of. Even if I die, I will take you people with me to hell before I'm done. Huffing a laugh, Xingyi refuses to be taken in contempt or be disgraced. Bai Yan had only just arrived on the scene after rushing over from the Zhong Manor when she overheard this proclamation. Her heart felt like a hammer smashed it to pieces knowing how close she came to losing someone important. If I don't walk into the flames, who will? However, before I go to hell, I will certainly drag you all to hell with me. On this blood-colored battlefield, thousands of enemies are facing off against a single young man. That's the same dreaded scene from her memories once again replaying itself before her eyes, showing it through like a lens in a camera and causing the beautiful contour which belongs to Bai Yan to flush red from pain and anger. Her whole person was wildly fluctuating with increased intent, turning and transforming this female into a razor-sharp sword that intends to strike down any foe that comes her way. Zhongnan and Zhongbei was right behind their student and became absolutely astounded by the sudden change in her momentum. But before the two seniors could dive further on this topic, Bai Yan's body had already turned into a beam of light shooting over to the middle of the fighting. Pompous in her attitude, Muzhen was so full of herself that she's dismissing all possibility of enemy reinforcement. This is your choice, so don't blame me. Since you won't surrender, then I will take your demon core and use it to improve my cultivation and make a breakthrough. This dragon's strength is equal to my own powers. If I can use her, then I might even be able to reach a height never before seen in the Misty Fairy House. Think of this. The old beauty's lip unconsciously curled into an evil snarl as she sliced down with her blade. Boom! From out of the blue, a blast of light came lancing over in the nick of time and directly impacted Muzhen's hand. Due to being unguarded from any form of sneak attack, her sword had bounced out of her fingers and made an audible clank upon hitting the ground. Who dares to attack me from behind? Swinging around, the old beauty readies herself to retaliate only to turn into a stiff statue after seeing that face. Her heart jumped repeatedly from the shock. No way. The slut is dead. There's no way she could be here. Shifu. Mulung saw her teacher's panic and hurried to call out, breaking the stupor and returning the situation back to before. Growing cold in her gaze now, Elder Muzhen gnashes her teeth. This woman must be that bitch's child. To think her face would be so similar to that slut. Oh no, I must not let the chief see her. Or else. Outrageous. Coming back to her senses at what this danger implies, Muzhen roars out to take back control of the situation. Do you know what it means to attack an elder? Bai Yan paid no heed to the screeching banshee in the background. Reaching out a helping hand, her eyes completely focused in on her pale-looking subordinate. I'm sorry I am late. Blinking at the hand given her way, Xingyi didn't know how to react at first. She didn't want to expose their relationship up front due to fear of implicating her mistress into this whole mess. But to see the complete disregard for safety was beyond her comprehension. Feeling the warmth slowly creeping into her heart, the dragoness eventually broke out into a weepy smile and knew she's now safe, giving the shimmering dressed man who followed from behind a glance. Goldie, why did you bring her here? I was afraid you would be in danger. Drooping his head, the gold dragon makes an apologetic bow of his head to show the guilt inside. You shouldn't have cared for me. In light of those words, her hands still met with the one given and allowed Bai Yan to pull herself up. Bai Yan's arrival, 4. You stay by my side. I will handle the rest. Letting go of her hand, Bai Yan slowly turned to confront the old hag who dares to cross herself. A wisp of killing intent promptly spreads out of her body, allowing it to cover the entire river bank. In my previous life, Azure Dragon was willing to exhaust his everything for me. Now that he's reborn as Xingyi, I must do everything to keep her safe. I owe her so much that I can never repay her in full. Eyes contracting against the defiance, Muzhen snaps. You and this dragon? What are your relationship? She's my subordinate. Bai Yan's voice sounded neither haughty nor cold, yet it was able to easily provoke the ire of foe and her student. Showing jealousy in her eyes, Mulung bites her lower lip. This girl was also dragged into the river by these two dragons. Why did they become her subordinate? If I had known it would come to this, then I would have gone to save Huan Yin instead. Ha ha! The old beauty's reaction wasn't as frosty. Rather, it swayed towards the hysterical side in that sarcastic cackle. No wonder this dragon would refuse to become my student's mount. So it's a blind dragon. Out of consideration for its poor eyesight, I will let it die a quick death later. As for you, though, squinting her eyes until it's firing daggers. Colluding with dragons, humph? I won't let you go either. Seeing there's no reaction to her threat, Mujin decides it's time she allowed the other side to understand what it means to go against her will. The pressuring aura of a high-level monarch rank came gushing forward at her release. Even so, Bai Yan remains unfazed and stood there like she's on a picnic trip. Now she's enraged. The old beauty did not expect the damn lassie to be able to stand up to herself in this state. Forming a fist, she smashes down with a hammering blow created by the energy she formed in the air. Yet, however, before her attack could even make contact, a loud hollering roar had come rushing over from the front. Mujin, how dare you make a move against our disciple? An attack came lunging over as soon as that was said, catching the old beauty by surprise due to being who the assailant was. Zhongnan older held nothing back in his furious strike. Meeting the old woman's hammer blow from above with his own palm, the resulting shockwave completely crushes the rocks nearby and riled up a dust of cloud. No, impossible. How can you break into the higher level of the monarch rank? Mujin's voice shook with incredulous. In the old beauty's view, reaching such a level may be difficult but not impossible for others. However, Zhongnan shouldn't be able to in lifetime at all. Yet reality and the long trail of footmark on the sandy ground said it all. She's been knocked backwards. There is nothing impossible in this world. Mujin, it's time we settled our debt today. Taking several big strides forward, the old man's expression was cold and sharp. Ha! Mujin scoffs a laugh. So what if you broke into the higher level? No matter what you do, you are still one step behind me. Furthermore, you're only you while we have everyone else here. What can a single you do before a whole crowd of us? It was Zhongnan's turn to scoff a laugh. They are members of the Elder Council as well. What makes you think they will help you? That may not be so. Snarling sarcastically, Mujin shifts her gaze over to Ho Chui Chui. This lady Miss Ho, she's Huan Yin's savior and benefactor. Right now the chief and madame is especially fond of her existence, and even the second young lord is showing exceptional interest in the lady. As long as she gives the word, then the elders will follow. Showing surprise in his face, Zhongnan immediately turns to the former chubby girl and frowned. So the one in the rumors are her? Bai Yan's arrival, 5? Compared with Zhongnan's surprised face, Bai Yan's look to Ho Chui Chui only seemed strange. Slowly, her lips had curved into a smirk. Ha ha! It was then Zhongbei's younger, hearty laugh came over from Mujin's back. Under the watchful eye of everyone, the old senior proudly stepped forward to side with his brother. Mujin, I'm afraid you won't get your wish. Even if you all work together, me and my older brother won't let you harm my disciple. The old beauty still wanted to chip in some more cynical words, but that's changed the second she noticed the other side's cultivation. You broke through to the higher level? These two bastards, they've both broke through? Mistress? Coughing at his attempt to speak, Silvery sways his huge body unsteadily. Take this medicine first. Coming over, Bai Yan readily hands over a beady pill that's able to heal up the guy's injury at a visible speed. Back over in the crowd, Huan Yin was listening to the conversation with careful ear. And for some reason, she's got the aching feeling that it's very familiar. Why do I feel like I've heard it somewhere? Mistress, maybe I am too stupid, but there is one thing I don't understand, says Silvery. The third person we dragged into the water from that day is clearly you. Yet this woman over there says it's her instead. Goldie promptly shot a glare over to his twin brother. What crap are you spouting now? When did Mistress get dragged down by us? She clearly jumped into the water on her own to save the other two. The crowd suddenly went quiet to the point where only the bristling sound of the wind remains. Now Huan Yin's got what she's trying to catch at in the head. Flickering with light in the eyes, she stares intently over to the woman in red that's now the center of attention. Outrageous! Muzhin's expression drastically changed. Zhongnan, your disciple is very bold. How dare she pretend to be Huan Yin's savior? If she's her savior, then does that mean I can say she instructed these two dragons to deliberately pull the girls into the water in order to save them? Goldie flew into a rage after hearing Muzhin's twisted logic. My mistress really jumped into the water in order to save the others. If not for Lady Tsing-yi interfering and stopped us before we ate her, then she would have died along with the two females. Unlike Silvery, who's more on the naive side, Goldie understood the situation better and wanted to push Bai Yan into the highest level. But the truth? They were cowering as soon as Bai Yan jumped into the water. That would not only make the situation spiral downwards, it would also make them brothers look bad in public as well. My mistress's alchemic abilities are very good, and she promised to heal Lady Tsing-yi's injury. Since Milady is willing to recognize her as the mistress, then us brothers will also recognize her. This speech caused Huan Yin to produce trickles of tears. What a good girl she is. Not only did she save me, she even gave the impersonator a chance. Compared to the ordinary Ho Chui Chui who didn't stand out in any way, she's more willing to believe Bai Yan to be the one. Disciple! Zhongnan's heart sank at the notion. Is it true? Twitching in the corner of her mouth, Bai Yan initially wanted to give the truth when Zhongbei's scolding roar cut in. You brat! Are you seeking death or something? What does others' life and death have to do with you? Now you almost got swallowed by a dragon. What if something happens to you for real? What will I and your first Sherfu do if you are gone? Bai Yan's arrival, 6. Just the thought of how obliviously close they were to losing their precious disciple again. The two elders would fall into a heart-clenching grief. Had it not been for her luck, then Yenner would have been in the dragon's belly. Of course, Bai Yan, on the other hand, was feeling immeasurably guilty right now. It's not like she's able to explain the truth to the two at this moment. For one, she's not so selfless to care for others' death and ignore her own safety. The main reason for the jump that day was out of consideration for Dragonis' whereabout. Since she couldn't find the little missy anywhere, then the next best choice would to ask around with the same kin. Maybe they might know something. Sherfu, I would never regret saving others. Bai Yan then shifts her gaze over to her precious dragoness. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to find her. Zhongnan was rather taken aback. Does Yenner know this green dragon beforehand? At this moment, Ho Chui Chui's face had turned ghastly white after hearing Silvery's word. Her body shakes and wanted to flee the scene before it's too late. Against the real deal, an imposter's momentum would of course be weaker. Ho ho! Muzhin continues to snicker at the situation. You and them are of the same group. Why should I believe anything you say? If anything, I say the one lying is you. The rest of the elders exchanged various glances with each other. It's true. Compared with believing some dragon, they would rather believe their own kind. Besides, they are involved in the rescue effort of pulling Ho Chui Chui out of the river. If it becomes true that the girl was a fake, then wouldn't it mean their efforts are invalid? Elder Muzhin. Biting her lip, Huan Yin decides to step forward. The one who saved me is this lady who just showed up. I'm certain of this because I recognize her voice. Turning frosty in the eyes, the old beauty increases her intimidating aura. What do you know, child? How could this impudent brat be your savior? Don't be fooled by their lies. Miss Ho is the real lady from that day, so don't it get wrong. I said it. She's my savior. What don't you understand? Huan Yin snaps, growing increasingly angrier by the moment. Go away, child. For someone that can't even recognize her own savior to come dictate what I do is ridiculous. Don't bother me while I complete official business. You? Trembling all over from rage, the poor girl never seen such shamelessness before that it's leaving her speechless. Bai Yan had known about Muzhin's shamelessness from hearsay, but not to this extent. It's obvious the old hag intends to make Ho Chui Chui be the imposter regardless of what everyone says. Zhongnan, older, couldn't hold back his laughter anymore. This is truly a first for me. How could the one that's been rescued mistake their savior? And you, for someone that's not even involved, you actually got the nerve to say you can determine who's who? That's of course? Mujin clicked her tongue, ignoring the strange looks coming her way. Huan Yin is just a child. Being blinded by those with devious schemes is normal. I, as an elder, have the duty to put her on the right path and not allow those with ill intent to deceive her. I'm sure her father would also thank me once he gets wind of what I did. Big brother, Zhongbei younger, grinds his teeth. It's a waste to continue this talk. New and old hatred. It's time we get revenge for our poor disciple that she murdered years ago. Okay. Zhongnan silently nods, agreeing with his younger brother's view. Today, even if we disregard the rules, we must kill this bitch to get even for our two disciples. Shifus. Before the pair could make a move, the faint voice of Bai Yan's voice had come out again. This is not even the opening act yet, please wait. I promise you will get a good show if you are patient. Afterwards you can dispose of her as you please. Counting the time, that guy should be here by now. Squinting her eyes until it's like an eagle's, Bai Yan shoots a bemused look over to Mujin like she's able to see through to the woman's hidden secrets. A good play's opening, one. Mujin's heart panicked at first over that strange gaze. No, the chief would definitely take my side over some outsider. There's no way he would abandon me for some stranger. As for Zhongnan and Zhongbei, they only just broke through to the higher level. They could never beat me with their current skill. Not far away, a series of footsteps soon came into their ears, causing Bai Yan to swing around to meet the oncoming crowd. A flicker of surprise filled those eyes at who it was. Not that guy again. Right now the chief and his wife were leading the pack after not finding the two seniors at the Zhong Manor. Zhongnan, Zhongbei, you two made a breakthrough? Jun Tianyu, wife, sounded very happy at the revelation. She's the mistress of the Misty Fairy House, so any form of strength increase meant the enhancement of her own house. It's just that. Didn't they suffer a crippling injury? How are they able to suddenly make a breakthrough? What changed? Chief. Mujin became overjoyed at the sight of who came. Taking the initiative, she steps in front of the chief and his family. Elder Mujin, what are you doing? Chief Wu Wei asks, his face making a frown. The matter is like this. Mujin's gaze flashed with a cold glint as she twists the truth. This Miss Ho is the one who saved Huan Yin that day, but due to the fright she suffered while inside the Dragon River, I decided to take it upon myself to help her with the revenge against these dragons. Yet when I'm here carrying out my duty, Zhongbei and Zhongnan's disciple suddenly interfered and even colluded with the dragons to side with them. I suspect they are all in on this and orchestrated the whole attack that day. Mujin didn't have a lot of strong points to her personality, but her skill in pouring dirty water at others were one of a kind. Towards this, Bai Yan just had to hand it to this old hag. Jun Tianyu, wife, first shot an examining look over to Ho Chui Chui, her brows raised. This girl doesn't seem special at all. Is she really the one who saved Huan Yin? Growing doubtful, the madame then shifts her attention over to Bai Yan when she became highly startled by the air around the woman in red. Girl, what's your name? This lassie. Why does she seem so familiar? Have I seen her somewhere before? It's not just the wife who's getting this sensation. The husband was also getting this feeling and wanted to grasp at that fleeting memory. Wife, have you noticed this girl's contour is very similar to Yunfeng's first son? Hesitant in his tone, Chief Wu Wei whispers to his wife. It's not just the girl's contour. In fact, those eyes were so close that it's giving this couple déjà vu, confusing their eldest son for some reason. Ho Chui Chui was still waiting for the chief and his wife to speak with her, but despite the long wait, no conversation ensued. Rather, the entire focus fell onto Bai Yan, and this irritated the impostor exponentially. No, no way. I won't allow anyone to take away my glory. Just when the fake wanted to throw herself into the conversation, Huan Yin decides to speak up again and get things clear. Uncle, Aunt, this Miss Bai Yan is the one who really saved me. Jun Tianyu showed an astonished look, her brow growing increasingly wary. Elder Mujin, what is the meaning of this? Sneering like always, That's what I was trying to explain. This woman over there is pretending to be Miss Ho and take her place. They've even managed to deceive Huan Yin into believing their lies despite not knowing what that woman on the boat looked like. A good play's opening, too. Mujin had cut off the girl's word again. Besides, if she really was your savior, then why would she collude with the dragons? What's more, my disciple has already investigated the matter. The name written on the invite slip is Ho Chui Chui, and that's a fact. It's the key evidence. That's right. Langer already finished off the one selling the invite slips. There won't be anyone able to prove it's this bitch who was there that day. No invite slip, no right to board the dragon boat. The plan is flawless and the chief will know who to trust. A humph. Making a dry cough, Chief Wu Wei turns to Bai Yen. Miss, do you have anything to say? Perhaps it's due to the similarity this girl shared with his son, but the father instinctively wanted to give the benefit of the doubt to an unknown stranger. It's pointless to say anything, better yet, why don't I let others be the judge instead? Raising the corner of her lip, she openly grins at the approaching figure that's coming their way in the distance. Walking behind the leading familiar individual was a fatty. Panting hard like he's about to have an anxiety attack, the main witness to this story clearly didn't want to be here despite being the key to everything. Mu Long, student, did not think much of the new arrivals at first, but that came to a stumbling halt as soon as she recalled who the fatty was. Croaking like a damaged frog, panic instantly grips the girl's heart. This fatty is still alive? Damn it! She harshly clenched that fist in a vain attempt to quell that flame. As long as I don't admit anything, then these people can't do anything to me. Sun Huan, why are you here? The mother asks her son after noticing his arrival. The womanizer clicked that haughty tongue, disappointed in his parents' folly. If I didn't come, then are you and father going to be blinded by these people? Mu Lung, I never thought you to be such a person. I don't know what you're talking about. Sensing the danger looming overhead, the once high-standing girl falters once again. Ho ho! Sarcastic in his voice, the womanizer doesn't relent. Did you tell my father and mother that the girl who saved Huan Yin is this Ho Chui Chui? But from what I know, she sold her invite slip to this merchant, so how could she have been on the dragon boat that day? Hearing the rock drop in her heart, Mu Lung fires her venomous gaze over to the fatty as a warning. If this man knows what's good for him, then he will deny everything. If he doesn't, then don't blame me for being ruthless. But unlike that day where he's nearly assassinated, the fat merchant was now a whole new person altogether. With backing, what did he need to fear? Immediately his resentful self began to spill everything. Second young master, the one who bought my invite slip that day, is this woman. It's her. Pointing to Bai Yen, the fatty then stares coldly at the other party. But Elder Mujin's apprentice found me, forcing me to paint out the contour of the lady that day. Under duress, I could only do as they demanded. However, I never expected them to take a stab at my life as soon as I was finished with that portrait. Please get justice for me. Mu Lung's complexion had gone deathly white, her feet instinctively taking a step backwards. It's still excusable if it was a mistaken identity, but if it's discovered that I deliberately threw a fake in despite knowing the truth, then it's a huge crime. Thinking of the consequences, she knew she must twist the story before it's too late. Lies. When did I do that to you? Sun Huan, don't listen to their nonsense. I don't know who this man is. To tell you the truth, Mu Lang, even without this man here today, just the fact that this lady is Bai Yen is enough for me to determine it's her that day. What did he mean by that? The high-standing girl didn't understand what's going on and lapsed out for a moment. A good play's opening, 3. Just because she's Bai Yen? While Mu Long was still trying to make sense of that statement, the womanizer had already come before Bai Yan's presence. His eyes were showing traces of grievance. Why did you cover your face that day? Is because you were afraid of me recognizing you? I actually couldn't be certain if it was really you on the dragon boat that day. But now that I've seen you in person, I'm absolutely certain without a doubt. He knows this woman beforehand? She was only skeptical at first, but now it's downright ugly in the face. Mu Lung simply couldn't expect them both to know each other, let alone be able to make a reunion in a situation like this. Muzhin's expression wasn't looking good either. Seething with anger, the old beauty comments using the most sarcastic tone she could muster. So it's second young master's old lover. No wonder you would deceive your own parents. I know you are a philanderer, but what you are doing now will harm the Misty Fairy House. Shut up! Several loud shouts rang out at the same time. In addition to the Zhongnan and his younger brother Zhongbei, there's also the womanizer's own mother Jun Tianyu. The madam directly stepped in front of the old bitch's face and swung her hand to give a loud smacking slap. Out of respect for saving my eldest back then, I've endured your parade for all these years. Now you got the audacity to blemish my second son? You think I, as his mother, wouldn't know his personality the best? Even if he's more dastardly in his womanizing, he would never lie to me. Covering her own face, Muzhin's eyes were filled with waves of loathsome anger. The womanizer as well, he was fuming right up to his head. If he wasn't so much weaker than this old hag then, he would have ran over himself to send a few slaps of his own. Muzhin, are you trying to see me dead? If you say another word then don't blame me. Don't joke around. That year this ill-tempered girl nearly castrated me just for teasing her. Now someone is brave enough to say she's my lover? I still want to live a nice long life. Now that all the players are here, it's time we began the show. Turning to gaze down at Muzhin with her frosty glare, Bai Yan's lip had arched into a devious smirk. It's actually quite easy to determine if that girl over there is Huan Yin's savior. Just have Sun Huan here ask her a few questions. Flabbergasted at the suggestion, the womanizer didn't get what's going on. Why have me ask her a few questions? What good would that do? But upon contact with Bai Yan's menacing gaze, the squeamish man hastened to carry out the task. If Yan Yan is opening her mouth, then I can only begin. Making a few coughs to clear his throat. First off, what color of dress did you wear that day? Ho Chui Chui didn't answer, only making a bewildered look. What does this have to do with being Huan Yin's savior? Bai Yan too was going dark in the face. This man, he's still as shameless as ever. It looks like you can't answer my first question. The womanizer grew serious. Getting sweaty in the forehead. He Chui Chui had wanted to defend herself when she was cut off. Second question. What time did you board the ship? The boarding time of each participant should have been recorded in the books. The fact that Muzhin and Mu Lung didn't bother to bring those up was very suspicious in itself. And sure enough, the imposter was left wordless. Fine then, the fact that you can't answer either of my questions is enough to tell me the answer I need. But as a benefit of a doubt, I will ask the third question. Clearing his throat so his words couldn't be misheard. What method did you use to cure Huan Yin's condition? Now this time Ho Chui Chui knew the answer. Inwardly, she was very much relieved at her own luck. A good play's opening for, I had you infuse your energy into Huan Yin's body while I used my flames to clear her veins. With that, are you happy? That's right, that should be enough to prove my identity. Once I enter the Huan Manor and become their esteemed guest, I will have this bitch regret it for the rest of her life. Arching a cheeky smirk, Ho Chui Chui narrows her eye into a squint against the one she's trying to impersonate. Aha! The womanizer cheerfully nods at that. Your answer is very good indeed. But now would you mind showing us your flame to prove it? Going stiff before her cheekiness could bear fruit. Ho Chui Chui's proud demeanor instantly deflates. This time it's not only the imposter. Even Mu Lung was starting to fret because they apparently forgot one crucial point. The imposter couldn't control her Dan fire. The womanizer didn't push it, only standing there patiently waiting. However, it was Elder Muzhin who lashed out to make the situation worse. What are you still standing there for? Hurry and summon out your flame. All embarrassed in her face, Ho Chui Chui began to mutter incoherent words like a lost child. In the end, she could only turn to the one who set this whole thing up for help. Mu Lung really wanted to smack the useless idiot. It's bad enough their whole plan was unraveling before the public. It's even worse when she's implicated, so why should she put her neck out for some pawn? Sherfu, gnashing her teeth, the once high-standing girl squeamishly whispered into her teacher's ear. She can't use her Dan fire. Not able to use her Dan fire? Mujin's face changed greatly, finally understanding why their pawn would be so hesitant. How did you find someone like that? The old beauty hushes at her disciple, annoyed by the incompetence. Fortunately, it's quite loud in this area due to the massive crowd, leaving them free to speak at low volume. Shamefully hanging her own head, Mu Lung fumbles those fingers nervously. The only fact keeping her from screaming out in frantic madness was the fact that her teacher's an elder. Even if the chief wants to punish someone after the fact, it will not be her, or at least not a severe one. It seems you have no ability to control a flame. The womanizer chuckles at the sight. If you can't control your flames, then tell me, how are you supposed to cure Huan Yin's condition? Well, the last bit finally shattered the last bit of defense in Ho Chui Chui's sanity. Freaking out like a crazed midwoman. It's Mu Lung. It's her. She sought me out and had me impersonate as Huan Yin's savior. This is not my fault. Please let me go. In this moment there were no sound to be heard, only utter silence. For the few elders who helped Mujin earlier, these poor fools were left in complete shock. Not only did they help the wrong person, they also directly offended the genuine lady in the story. Jun Tianyu was wife, trembling all over from the rage brewing up inside, pointing her finger straight at Mu Lung in an accusing manner. You dare deceive me! In all the years I've been alive, I have never been played like so. Wu Wei, husband. You better punish these people severely, otherwise I will never return to the Misty Fairy house again. Pa! Flashing a flicker of panic, Mujin did what she knew best and slapped her own student across the face. Immediately, that dainty beautiful cheek of the young maiden had swollen up with 5 big fingerprints. What have I been teaching you? Why are you trying to fool the chief and madam? Do you know your fault? Getting to her knee. Shifu, I know my wrong. Please have mercy on me. I felt dreadful inside knowing how horrible Huan Yin and Sun Huan, womanizer, felt inside after the incident. That's why I had Ho Chui Chui impersonate the real one. I really didn't know Miss Bai Yen is still alive. In other words, her actions were an act of mercy rather than an act of deceit. It's also a good way to limit any accusation before anyone could make it. A good play's opening, 5. Slowly raising the corner of her lips until it's a smirk. Bai Yen found it amusing to see the tearful Mu Lung trying to swing the story her way. Such shamelessness. This girl is a real eye-opener. Ha! Zhongnan, older, sneered. Then how should we settle the fact that you tried to harm my disciple? Pressing down the murderous intent in her eyes, Mujin bites her lip in frustration. It's mainly a misunderstanding between Langer and your student, and I only acted because she's siding with the dragons. Since it has come to this, why don't we let the younger generation settle it among themselves? How about it? Shifu. A pang of delight envelopes Mu Lung's heart. Shifu means to have us fight. With my strength, I can definitely win the brawl against an Earth-rank cultivator. Heck, I can even kill her by claiming I misjudged the exchange and play innocent. It's exactly as the wretched girl believes. In order to blind the world to her true strength, Bai Yan's been withholding her aura so others would believe her powers were so poor. I don't agree. Jun Tianyu, wife, scoffs a laugh. Do you take me for a fool or something? You think I will believe your nonsense just because of a few words you made up? Now you even have the audacity to attempt murder in my face. Although the girl was Zhongnan's apprentice, but it's obvious the strength between both are heaven and earth. To even propose such a duel was no different from trying to get the weaker one to die. The two brothers didn't have such a strong reaction compared to the madam. They're still able to remember the amazing momentum their disciple displayed earlier when rushing over, so their hearts were less worried. Shifu, since someone wants to seek their own death, then why don't I oblige them? Strolling forward without a care in the world, Bai Yen was openly grinning like she's hooked the fish. If the woman kept refusing the duel, then Mujin and her apprentice would continue to pressure for it. But to see how easily it was accepted, it's left them flabbergasted and didn't know how to take this. Did we misjudge her? This woman is not an earth rank. Poser. Mu Lung huffs a snort. The woman must be pretending because she knows she couldn't cancel the duel. Nothing but a lowly earth rank. I will squash her like an insect. Yener. Seeing how close his disciple was already to the opponent, Zhongnan couldn't resist the fear in his heart and called out in concern. Touching at the girl's shoulder, "Let us handle this, you don't have to do this." That's right, he's still scared in the end. They've lost one apprentice already. Losing another one now would be more than what they could bear. Even if it means not being an elder anymore, the two brothers would rather choose that outcome. But in the end, Bai Yan take the gesture of goodwill and pushed the hand away. Her figure was stoic and powerful against the flowing breeze, indicating the strong-willed nature of her character. "I'll ask one last time, are you sure you want to challenge me to a duel of life and death?" "Yes." Clenching her fist, Mu Lung decisively states her decision. "Life and death." Mu Jin, on the other hand, felt faintly disturbed inside after getting the answer she sought for her student. The old beauty should be happy right now, yet only worry filled her polluted heart. For the entire show, the only one not affected at all was the womanizer. Sun Huan found it rather amusing and even hilarious even. This old hag. Can't she even tell Bai Yan is not what she seems to be? 3 years ago the lassie was already at the middle level of the king rank. She might even be a monarch rank if I'm not mistaken. All of a sudden, the splitting and painful memory of having his balls kicked out by the hot-headed girl once again came back. Out of instinct for survival and procreation, the womanizer subconsciously hid behind his parents for protection. "I'll let you have 3 moves. Provoking in her demeanor, Bai Yan smirks like a superior being. If it was the usual ordeal, then she would have made it quick and decisive. But this wasn't the usual stuff, was it? This was an act of revenge and venting for her 2 new shifas. For that reason alone, this good student was willing to spend some more time toying with the foe. Impudent. Cocking a satirical snicker, Mu Lung takes the initiative and draws her sword. Leaping forward at breakneck speed, she ruthlessly slashes down at the opponent's head without mercy. A good play's opening, 6. Stationary in her pose, Bai Yan did not budge an inch. For those that's unaware or too blind to see, it would appear like the woman's lost her wits and couldn't move those legs at all. Mu Lung definitely fell into the foolish category. Smirking sinisterly, she was so overjoyed when her sword made contact that she actually broke out laughing. However, the next sensation to hit her wrist shattered the delusion in her head, for the impact from the slash felt like it's hitting a rock. In fact, it was so bad that the blade now had a huge dent at the midsection. Stunned beyond recognition, the impudent wench glances down at the source of her dismay. To her horror, the long sword was being blocked off by a single hand. To be specific, it's Bai Yan's hand. There's not a drop of blood from the blade touching the skin. Likewise, the onlooking crowds were also left speechless. This included the 2 brothers who were ready to dash in to help their student. And as always, the only one to stand out in this picture was the womanizer. His hearty laugh filled with bemused tears were like slaps against Mu Lung's pride. Feeling a trickle of sweat coming down her side, Mu Lung in her frantic state refuses to believe the truth. Waving her sword again, the impudent wench makes another swing at Bai Yan's shoulder and causes her dress to slit open in that area, revealing the lovely shoulder and partial undergarment underneath for all to see. Though the important parts were perfectly covered, but the mere fact that the womanizer could get a glimpse of that amazing flesh from such beauty was enough to give him a boner. This applied to a lot of the younger males. As always, the tougher the catch, the more delectable it was when they finally get something, even if it's just a tease. Furrowing her brow at this, Bai Yan peers over to her side in discontent, knowing full well the ogling eyes coming her way. "I'm so foolish. I forgot my clothes aren't protected, and I really like this dress too." That comment immediately warranted a wave of curses at her from the female gender. "Really? You're worrying about your dress when your body just handled a razor-sharp sword and is practically flashing to all the men?" No words could be said at this incredulous scene. The hearts of the males were pounding with excitement like it's about to pop out and drop to the floor. It's too exhilarating of a show to see someone so strong and so attractive. "I had wanted to let you have 3 moves before I begin. Unfortunately for you, you've ripped my dress." Getting dangerously cold in her eyes. "So, I will no longer give you that opportunity." Bang! Finally retaliating, Bai Yan's hand firmly comes down at Mu Leng's head, popping it and blowing all of the innards out like a watermelon. Brain, blood, bone. Everything that came out was repulsive as it stained the floor red with its content. No! Seeing her precious student fall in combat, Mujin flew into a fitting rage. Resentment, cruelty, hatred, all that one could sum up in a situation like this was showing in those eyes. You dare kill my disciple. I will not spare you. Boom! Breaking out everything a high-level monarch rank could muster, Mujin wants to pummel the foe with her punch that's infused with all her might. Unfortunately for this old beauty, Zhongnan, older, knew this and immediately stepped in front of Bai Yan to block off the attack. You want to harm my disciple in front of my face? Do you think I'm dead or something? Bang! Two fists met, forcing Mujin to falter backwards like the previous exchange again. There's venom in the old woman's eye right now, like a snake trying to bite its enemy to death. Zhongnan! If it was only Zhongnan around then, this venomous old hag would never back off, even if it's in front of the chief and the madam. However, there's also the younger brother Zhongbei to the side. If the both of them united and worked together, then she could never come out on top in a direct confrontation. Sweeping a glance over from Mujin to her two shifis, Bai Yan comments to stop this. Shifis, let me handle this for you. Whatever grudge you hold against this old hag, your student, I will get it back for you. Blinking their eyes, the two seniors didn't know what else to say. Sniffling, water quickly swelled out of their tear ducts due to the happiness they felt. Bai Yan was only just starting with the grand show she prepared. Killing Mu Leng merely counted as the appetizer to force Mujin to experience the same pain she imparted on the two fellas. The main course was yet to come. Yenner, are you also a monarch rank? After a moment of hesitation, the younger Zhongbei decides to ask after working up the courage to get the truth. During the moment when the girl retaliated, the energy fluctuation definitely exceeded an earth rank and gave away the secret. I'm sorry for deceiving you two before. I'll be sure to give you a proper explanation later. Bai Yan sounded apologetic. The two old seniors treated her with sincerity, so the guilt could not be denied. A good play's opening. 7. A current of warmth filled Bai Yan's heart, because she deceived them, yet they're still willing to believe herself. In comparison, the rest of the onlookers were gawking in frenzy over the astonishing news. This lassie is a monarch rank master? Oh Yen, you are a monster. The womanizer grumpily comments. You were only a king rank 3 years ago. How did you reach a new stage altogether in this short period? At first the people only assumed the woman must be an old lady who maintains her image well like Mujin did. But it's apparently not the case based on Sun Huan's, womanizer, suggestive words. A 20-something years old held powers equivalent to an elder of the Misty Fairy House. If that's not a genuine monster, then what else could she be? No genius could match that talent, not even the greatest younger generation of this age. Chief! Mujin whirls herself to face the Lord. Langer is my student. Just because she's at odds with her doesn't mean she can kill my Langer. Isn't this too much? Chief Wu Wei frowns. They had an agreement beforehand, so I'm not in a situation to intervene. What does he mean by not right to intervene? This old fart is clearly abandoning my apprentice because of the talent displayed by that bitch over there. Fuming with disgruntlement inside, Mujin hated her lack of ability. As much as she would love to tear the perpetrator to pieces, she could do nothing but swallow the indignation. Mujin, you should be praying for yourself instead of worrying about your already dead disciple. If I find out you are involved with today's case, then you can forget about living. Jun Tianyu, wife, threatens, her eyes sharp and dangerous. It looks like the Elder Council needs a good cleaning. Dirt like this one is no longer needed. Mujin's heart shuddered at the intimidating threat. Bowing her head, she firmly pressed away that hatred so others couldn't see. Yes, madam. You go back to the council hall first. Without my permission, you're not allowed to step outside. She's trying to put me under house arrest. If it comes to that, then I won't have a say anymore in the future. Why are you still standing there for? Hurry and scram. The ma'am barked, indicating she's done with the old hag. Knowing she's done for here, Mujin sucks in a deep breath and left without another word. In tow, She also took away the group from her side who had the misfortunate fate of meeting the same end as her. Bai Yan, on the other hand, didn't intend to let this side. Giving a signal to Tsing-yi, she intends to finish things even if the rest didn't want to. However, Zhongnan, older, suddenly stepped in front and blocked the dragoness's path. Shifu? Puzzled, she asked. Wait a minute first. I have something I don't understand. Once I figure out what it is, then we can kill that witch. It won't be too late then, even if she gets some time. Clenching his old fist, the senior explains. There are some things he must figure out. He didn't have enough strength before, so he couldn't complain. But now that he does, he would never let Muzhin escape. Nodding in understanding, Bai Yan wanted to inquire for more details to only realize this was no place to be doing this. It's the open public. A lot of the onlookers would be able to easily eavesdrop on their conversation. Mississippi. Slowly coming forward, Jun Tianyu warmly holds onto Bai Yan's hand and smiled warmly. Can I ask what other family members do you have? Frowning at the strange and sudden question, she nevertheless replied in kind. I have many relatives, grandfather, uncles, cousins, and a brother. Oh, what about your parents? I don't know who my father is, and my mother has been missing for years. The madam and her husband promptly exchanged a meaningful look with each other. Don't know who the father is and the mother's missing? The fact that they got a very good image of Bai Yan as soon as they met was a huge indicator, plus those eyes. It resembles their son Yunfeng way too much. Therefore, it's understandable why they would think in that direction. Miss Bai Yan, I heard from others that were you able to cure Huan Yin's condition. Might I ask you to have a look at my son Yunfeng's illness as well? I know it's asking too much of you, but consider it a favor. The chief asks ahead of his wife. A good play's opening 8. It's not that Chief Wu Wei didn't believe in Bai Chongfeng's talent and ability. After all, it's there for all to see. However, the fact that the old bastard gave his son the equivalent of a death sentence was an unacceptable assessment. What illness of the heart needs a cure for the heart? He's a father, and as a father he would pursue any leads, regardless of how slim the chances are. You went to Bai Chongfeng's place again? Did he promise to come? Jun Tianyu, wife, asks with a furrowed forehead. The husband smiles bitterly at his wife's question. Yunfeng's illness hasn't been getting any better after all these years, so I couldn't bear it any longer and went to find that man. Though the medicine sect have been at odds with us, but Bai Chongfeng didn't reject my request for a meeting this time. I presume it's because he found his granddaughter recently and is in a better mood. Anyways, let's have the lady here look at our son first. Whatever happens, we will deal with the hurdles as it come. At this moment, Bai Yan was stroking her chin in contemplation instead of listening to the couple. Grandfather's here? Crap. I must get my hands on the blood vine now before grandfather sees me. Otherwise he would be dreadfully worried if he doesn't find Xiachen around. I can go have a look at your son, but, beaming a flash in her eyes, I want a seed of the blood vine in your possession. Originally her plan was to go steal the actual blood vine from the main vault, however, this opportunity was even better. Okay, it's a deal. Elated inside, the madam readily pulls Bai Yan along towards their home. Regardless of you being able to cure Yunfeng's illness, I will still be grateful to you. In comparison though, the others present weren't taking it so well and were exchanging looks between themselves. In their urgency, the elders all turned towards the chief for help. Unexpectedly, the man didn't move and remained inactive like he's giving the go-ahead. How can the madam just hand out the bloodvine seed? And the chief agreed so quickly too. Chief, madam. It was then a panicking voice cuts in from the rear. The young master is acting up again. It's very serious this time and he's attacking anyone who gets too close. What? Nearly fainting on the spot. The poor mother struggles to keep her balance due to those shaky legs. Quick, we need to go back. Let's go. The chief as well. His eyes were very urgent and hurried to support his wife. Together, arm in arm, the couple quickly headed for their home. Yenner, let's go and see too. Zhongnan sounded anxious as well, just that his worried state was less urgent due to the calm and fixated gaze of his student. Perhaps this precious disciple of mine really can cure Yunfeng's illness. Inside the misty fairy house, the most majestic and magnificent structure, had to be the main home of the chief and his wife. As soon as she barged into the estate, the echoing cries of a painful man could be heard even from afar. That's how much suffering the patient was going through. In hindsight, Bai Yan too felt a strange discomfort in her heart over that sound. It's as if someone's holding her heart and tightly ripping it around. Yener, what's wrong? Zhongnan, older, was the first notice the woman's shortness of breath. Bai Yan did not answer, only rushing forward towards the source like a single second might spell a fate she doesn't want to see. A good play's opening 9. When Jun Tianyu knocked open the door to her son's room, this poor mother's first glimpse of his son's state was a horror fest that nearly caused her to faint at the sight. Thankfully, there were others around. Catching his wife in mid-collapse, Chief Wu Wei hurries to make eye contact with his people. What are you all waiting for? Hurry and go subdue my son before he hurts himself. Taken aback at first, the elders who followed right from behind quickly ran forward in an effort to drag the poor patient to the bed. However, it's unsure where Yun Feng managed to get the strength, but he swung and flipped like a mad beast at the group, pushing everyone back and screeching like a disturbed animal. One of you come support my wife. I'll do it myself. Seeing how the others are failing miserably, the husband decides to take matters into his own hands and subdue his son. Hold it. Jun Tianyu flew into a rage and broke free from the two helping elders. Seething in her voice, Wu Wei, if you dare hurt my son, then I'll die with you. But wife, our son's already fallen into a frenzy state. If we don't stop him now. Troubled, the poor man didn't know what to do against this conflicting situation. Normally, this mother's demeanor tended to lean towards the calm and decisive side. However, that always changes whenever it involves her eldest son. I don't care anymore. I only know you people want to hurt my son. Burning with fire in her eyes, this mother gave glares of death to those around herself. Back then it was all of you who prevented Yun Feng from being with the one whom he loves. If it wasn't for that, then he wouldn't have turned into his current state. You're the ones who hurt my son. After so many years, you bunch still want to hurt him some more? Wife, listen and let me explain. When the chief grabbed onto her wife's hand, he was shocked to discover the heavy shaking across that arm. Those eyes weren't the same ones he's so familiar with either. It's something completely foreign to him, like a foe facing a ring of dangerous creatures. Let go of me, you bastard. Jun Tianyu flings away her husband's grip. What does it matter if Yun Feng wants to be with the woman he loves? Why are you people stopping him? Who the hell is that goddess? Based on what can you people do this to my son? The husband didn't know how to respond to his wife's complaints. He's always been supportive of her decisions throughout their marriage, the only exception being their son's marriage. It's his mistake and the main reason their son has turned into this decrepit state. But regret was pointless at this stage. The charismatic young man from back then would never return. Done with them all, the poor mother stumbles forward without a care for everyone else. Yun Feng, it's mother, do you know me? As long as you can recover, then mother will decide for you. Whoever you want to marry, you can go ahead. No one can stop you. Ourk! Screeching with an animalistic roar, the mentally unstable man charges at the woman who drew too close. Wife, be careful. Fearing his wife would be harmed, the chief wanted to drag her away. To no avail. The woman didn't budge and had her eyes completely glued to her son's presence. There's so much pain in there that anyone could see it. As long as Yun Feng can recover, then I'm willing to pay for it with my life. Then, just when those clawish hands were about swipe down at the mother's face, a powerful beam of silvery light had cut through the window and pierced into the frenzied man's heart. Only inches away from making contact, the person fell backwards and lost his consciousness. Son! Finally unable to bear the pain, Jun Tianyu wholeheartedly collapses and fainted into her husband's arms. This leaves the husband the only one awake to deal with the aftermath. Turning to face the doorway, he nods at Bai Yan's figure, who still had her fingers pointed forward. Thank you for that. A good play's opening. 10. Sucking in a deep breath, Bai Yan had to work desperately hard to keep in the unease in her heart. All of you go out. Taken aback by the strong reaction, the chief eventually nodded. Okay. Give us a shout if you need anything. I will have my people do as you order." After saying this, the man then began to head for the outside with her wife in hand. But just before he could step through the doorway, another call came out. "Wait!" Halting in his step. "Is there anything else? I need some herbs. Within half an hour. Bring them all to me. Tell me the names. I'll have them ready by that time." Chief Wu Wei has decided. Since his wife was willing to believe this girl, then he too would believe her. Within the Mu Manor, Mujin was currently sitting on the sandalwood chair with her eyes showing extreme resentment. "Elder." A shadowy figure drifts through the door and takes to his knee. "I'll ask you one question." Mujin eye flickered with a frosted tint. "That day, did you guys really finish off and kill that woman? I want the truthful answer." She's not going to forget the chief's word back there about how their eyes look very similar, adding in the fact that the bitch's face held such strong resemblance. It's hard to deny the wariness creeping up inside. "Elder." Musing over his answer, the shadowy figure appears tied between something. "That day the woman was seriously injured by us. There's no way she could have survived." Mujin's complexion sank again. "When you pursued her, was she pregnant?" Trembling so slightly, so in the end the truth got leaked. "It's like this, Elder. That day we could see she was about 8 months pregnant. All things considered, that child could not have survived with the mother. Even if the child did live, it wouldn't have lasted long. And why was such a crucial piece of information not reported to me?" Slamming her fist down at the table, the old beauty instantly blew apart the furniture and allowed the tea splash across the floor. "Because the child is bound to die, so I..." Bang! Sending a direct kick over, she sends the shadow tumbling to the ground. Those eyes radiated hatred like a bat out of hell. "How dare you hide this from me? If you are so sure she is dead, then you don't need to live either." Due to Chief Wu Wei's sudden inquiry about the woman from years ago, this ruthless and black-hearted which did what any evil villain would do. She murdered anyone involved with that case. This one who just returned was out in a mission, so that's how the individual managed to survive till today. But in the end, the fate of death still befalls the shadow's head. Piercing the man's heart with her blade, Mujin claps her hand to summon a servant. "Drag this corpse away and bury him in a mass grave." "Yes, Elder." An elderly old man slowly emerged from the side, his face indifferent and cold when eyeing the pool of blood. Lifting up the body as told, he went about with his business as usual. It's just that this time around, instead of a smooth burial like the previous times, there was a ghostly figure who tailed him and stole the body away once he wasn't looking. Regarding all this, Mujin naturally didn't know nor expect. In her wretched head, there's only the burning hatred for revenge against Bai Yen. To think that slut bore the young lord's child. She's nothing but a commoner. Based on what can she have his blood? Gnashing her teeth in jealous hate, the old beauty rubs her own belly in utter resentment. And there's that blasted daughter of hers. No wonder she's such an eyesore. As soon as I saw her. A slut would always give birth to a slut, only knowing how to seduce the opposite sex. A good play's opening. 11. Elder. Coming through the door, the senior who earlier went to dispose of the body had returned. "I have buried the corpse within the usual spot as you instructed. It won't be long before the wild creatures in the forest dig into him. There is no need to pay the subject any more heed." Mujin calmly nods to affirm she's got the message. "Now that I'm being nominally under house arrest by the chief, I want you to pay closer attention to that side. If there's anything at all from the estate, I want to know about it." "Yes, Elder." Sounding hesitant, the senior decides to ask what's bothering him anyways. "Regarding the girl from back then who tried to seduce the young lord, is she really just a commoner?" "Of course." Mujin snarled at this. "Even if she isn't a commoner by the odd chance, the girl couldn't be anything more than a small clan's daughter. How can someone of that low blood be worthy of our young lord? I bet she knew his identity beforehand and did everything to climb into the bed. That's how she got pregnant in the first place. Someone who only schemes to become the mistress of our misty fairy house deserves to be crucified for their sins. What I did is an act of mercy. Do you understand me?" Apparently this old hag had forgotten her own place in life. She's only an elder, a subordinate of the main ruling house. The very fact that she's trying to dictate who or what's permissible to interact with her liege was in itself a treasonous act. The old senior didn't object or raised any more doubt to the woman. He didn't participate in the matter from back then, so he doesn't understand the full picture. However, an ominous sensation kept nagging in the back of his head like this wouldn't turn out well in the coming days. You can leave me for now, I want to rest. Closing her eyes, Mujin showed a wary tiredness on her face. Perhaps it's due to her own student facing a miserable death, or it's the fact that she no longer has a place in the Misty Fairy House's controlling body. Regardless of the reason for both, it's all bad news. Yes, elder. Arching his fist, the old man respectful bid his farewell with a worried face before disappearing from this courtyard. Meanwhile, at the same time over at the main residence of the chief's home, Yunfeng wasn't attacking everyone within sight anymore. Rather, he's now all quiet lying there against the bed and even regained some of his handsome features from all those years ago. You, who are you? Bai Yen points her finger in an uncertain way at the man's forehead. He's clearly just a stranger. Why is he able to make my heart feel so painful? Perhaps it's her voice, or that face for some reason. But the conscious young lord was slowly closing his eyes like he's overcome with a wave of drowsiness. The person's not feeling weak or anything. Instead, it's a sense of calm that's allowing him to get some rest after going crazy earlier. I will definitely cure you. Maybe then I will get some answers. In that moment when she said this, Bai Yen nearly couldn't hold her emotions in check. She has her suspicions, and it's really difficult to find any flaw with her theory. Nevertheless, she couldn't just jump the gun without proof. This time I need to refine an 8th grade medicinal Dan pill. He's been far too gone and for far too long. Only a supreme Dan pill can suppress that inner demon within his heart now. Bai Yen was by all intent purpose a genius when it came to alchemy. However, refining such a high-level pill was a first for her in this world. There are risks involved, and it won't do her good if that comes to pass. Taking out her personal cauldron from the storage bag, the woman was just about ready to begin when a knocking from the door interrupted her session. Stern in that voice, "Come in." At her beckoning, a young maid slowly opened the door and strolled in with a tray in hand. The young lass walked extremely slowly before eventually placing the item on the table. "Miss, this is the medicinal ingredient you asked for. I know, you can leave now." Giving an approving nod, she seems pleased by what's displayed before herself. "Go inform everyone that none is allowed to come inside afterwards when I start, regardless of what they hear or see. Understand?" Refining an 8th grade Dan pill was no laughing matter and would surely rouse a series of heavenly thunders from the sky. Thankfully, this was not a 9th level phenomenon. Otherwise, her current body would never be able to endure that destructive force. Bai Yen still hasn't forgotten how she died in her previous life back on Earth. Anyone would be traumatized after being struck down by thousands of watts of electricity. The lightning strike of an 8th grade pill one. Faintly exhaling the dirty air in her lungs, Bai Yen allows her mind to drift away into the deeper parts of her memories as she closed those eyes. In an instant, the long and difficult recipe for the Supreme Dan pill emerges, allowing her mind to go through the ingredients in detailed precision. Jerking them open again after achieving what she wants, the woman moved with fire and wind. "Before I didn't dare to attempt such a high-level recipe, but now I will, and I must succeed. There's not much choices right now. It's either she succeeds and get to the bottom of her discomfort or give up and lose this crucial trail that suddenly befall her way." Yunfeng. Inside another bedchamber, Jun Tianyu had just regained her consciousness after fainting from earlier. Climbing up, this mother's first instinct was to ask about her eldest son's condition in her frantic state. "How is Yunfeng?" Pained by the nails digging in his skin from his wife's firm grip, Chief Wu Wei tries hard to look as calm as possible in order to avoid throwing his wife over the edge. "Don't worry, my wife. Our son is fine. Miss Bai Yen is already seeing to his illness. I'm sure it won't be long until the demon in his heart is gone and we can all start anew." "Really?" The mother's expression instantly brightens. Even if she knew the man's words are nothing but deceiving lies, it's still something she wants to believe. I'm going to see Yun Feng. Wait a minute. Seeing his wife's going to get out of bed, he promptly made a grab for her shoulder to stop this. Wait, don't move and rest for now. The lady stated that we mustn't interrupt her session during the operation, so let's wait here while she does her work. Even this man didn't know why he would be so trusting of a stranger to the point where he would entrust the well-being of his son to them. Okay. Repeating the words several times over to herself in a muttering tone, Jun Tianyu could not hold in her joy. Unlike the other healers and alchemists who came before, Bai Yen was the only one who didn't turn their heads as soon as they saw Yun Feng's condition. Outside the territories of the Misty Fairy House, the closest terrain was a deep ravine that cut off the mainland from this part of the continent. As a result, those who wished to enter the place by regular means would need to traverse a large stretch of barren landscape in order to reach the destination. Yenner is unthinkable. How can she not come back and tell us something so major? Huffing and puffing, the usually calm second Shifu Reni appeared quite annoyed in his voice. If we didn't interrogate little Rice and force him to spill the beans, then who knows what sort of danger that girl would be in. The third brother Chiu Shu Rong nods in agreement and cocked a bitter smile of his own. Maybe Yen Yen only did this because she knew the Holy Land's relationship with the Misty Fairy House isn't that harmonious? But really, that blasted girl needs to start learning on how to use the powers behind herself. She's too headstrong for her own good, always running up front and shouldering everything on her own without looking for help. Normally all three brothers would come after getting wind of this, but since their oldest brother Jingqi was in the middle of making a breakthrough, only these two had come. There's around 1,000 miles before we reach the Misty Fairy House. By my estimate, we should be there by nightfall. Ren Yi's eyes scanned the horizon with a fierce glint. If my precious student suffers any indignation or is harmed by those people, growling like a threatening dog, I will make them pay regardless of their forces or status. As an elder of the Holy Land, how could the second brother not know the virtues of those from the other power? And considering her own student's proud nature plus amazing talent, it's almost a certain some of those conceited bastards would try something against her. That's something he won't allow. The lightning strike of an 8th grade pill, too. While the two elders of the Holy Land were making their way over at air-splitting speed, the sky around the main residences of the Misty Fairy House had fallen into a gloomy storm. Jun Tianyu and her husband remained seated inside the main reception hall while they waited. Though the hope was slim, the couple didn't want to let it go. But as always, there are bound to be some who simply doesn't want the world to have a moment of peace sometimes. Chief, madam, Elder Muzhin has come. Rushing inside was a young maid, her face flustered and urgent. What? The mistress of the house flew into a rage at the announcement, slamming her hand against the table. Didn't I instruct my people to watch over her estate? How did she step out of her home without them knowing? Then, before the maid could get another word in, an eerie laugh cuts in on their conversation from the front. It's annoying and filled with sarcasm. Madam, why are you so angry for? I'm only here to leave a few words, that's all. Clenching her fist, Jun Tianyu glares fire at the arrogant woman who barged into her home. What do you want to say? Among those part of the Elder Council, Muzhin was indeed one of a kind, so it's not entirely surprising that she could slip through the observers. What did surprise this madam, though, was the fact that this old wench would violate her orders. I've heard you are letting that girl treat the young lord and that you're leaving them alone with no one to observe? Squinting her eyes into a narrow slit, the old hag sneered derisively. I don't know if I should say you're stupid or just simple-minded. How could you just believe some stranger would suddenly waltz into the frame and cure an illness that even the lord of the medicine sect could not do? I bet she's in there harming the patient right now. Muzhin, Jun Tianyu snaps, enraged by the derogatory words coming her way. I don't want to argue with you right now, so get out of my sight. In light of that, the old hag did not leave. In fact, he's dismissing the death glare and turned towards the husband. Chief, do you really believe the girl's appearance is some kind of coincidence? Unlike his wife, who's quickly losing all reasoning, Chief Wu Wei stayed cool in his demeanor that's expected of a ruler. What are you trying to imply? Spill it. Then I'll tell you the truth. Muzhin's lip curved into a faint smirk. That girl's appearance reminds me of a person. Who? Dubious in his face, the man coldly asks. The woman who seduced the young lord and then abandoned him, that woman. Clank. Due to the bombshell of a news, the man had inexplicably knocked over the teacup next to him when jolting up. You mean, she is my granddaughter? He wasn't able to spell the last word out of his mouth because the poor man's shaking too terribly to mince words. Don't be too happy yet, Chief. I'm only saying the girl might be that woman's daughter. Also, I never said anything about it being the young lord's child either. She might just be an imposter and here out to gain our favor. That's not possible. The girl's eyes are way too similar to my son's. She must be Yun Feng's daughter. She must be my. Endless joy swept the man off his feet, sending him fluttering all around like he's floating on air. If Bai Yen is really my granddaughter, then the Misty Fairy House will have an heir. So what if she has similarities with the eye? This world is filled with children. Having a few that looks similarly close is nothing to be surprised about, nor does it prove anything. As far as I know, that woman from back then would sleep with any men she comes across. Even if this girl is the young lord's daughter, what good would such an offspring be when it's coming from such bad blood? The lightning strike of an 8th grade pill. 3. Yes, I haven't checked it yet, so how can I be so certain of that girl being my granddaughter? What to do? Our Misty Fairy House doesn't have anything to verify one's lineage. Wait, there's Bai Chongfeng. I can ask him to help once he arrives at our door. After some brooding, Chief Wu Wei figured this would be the best option. Ha ha! Jun Tian, you couldn't help but cackle at her foe's shamelessness. So your meaning is the girl came to our Misty Fairy House in order to deceive us and get close to Yun Feng? Is that what you're implying? That's right. Muzhin's eye flickered with a strange light at the idea. Her purpose is perhaps to dilute the leading family's blood. With the power she would gain, the slut would then become a person of extreme influence overnight. Do you really think us for a fool? Miss Bai Yen is a monarch rank. With her talent at such a young age, every power out there would be vying to take her in. Why does she need to deceive me or my husband? The madam didn't believe a single word coming out of the other side's mouth. Perhaps others don't know this, but as a mother, Jun Tian, you could visibly sense the disgusting motive hiding behind this old hag's face. Ha ha ha! Laughing at that remark, Muzhin's sniggering became derisive and mocking. Do you really believe that she is a monarch rank? In this world, there are plenty of treasures that can instantly boost or hide one's power. For a period, that is. Her face turning a heinous dark that showed how evil her insides were. And I'm certain she only defeated my disciple thanks to said treasure. I do not believe she's talented at all. Unable to take this farce anymore, the mother hatefully flings her own teacup at the foul-mouthed granny who's in love with her own son. It missed, of course, after Muzhin swung to the side, causing the content inside and the container itself to splatter into many pieces after hitting the wall. Compared to you, I would rather believe the young miss than you. Scram, I don't want to see it my home. Elder Muzhin, why are you still standing there for? Chief Wu Wei was now frowning at the unwelcomed guest. Do you want to see my wife's death or something? He's the husband here. To see his own wife clenching that chest like her heart's in unmeasurable pain. The man would of course be unhappy. Humph. I'm only trying to get even for my poor student. She has been wronged dearly by being killed. Jun Tian Yu was about to go mad after hearing that comment. She's absolutely livid. If not for the fact that her eldest son was supposedly saved by this old hag years ago, then she would have run over and ripped out that tongue. Boom! Abruptly, a struck of lightning suddenly came smashing down in the general area of the patient's room, causing a wave of fright to the occupants inside the hall. By the time the three of them ran outside to investigate, the darkened sky had already changed. There's now a huge stormy cloud spewing purplish streaks of electricity down to the ground. Young lord! Muzhin exclaims, her legs shaky and her face a ashen white. She wants to kill Bai Yen for what she did, and she also hates the parents for whatever reason. But this old beauty could never hate the man she's been secretly coveting. Madam, this is the sort of person you brought back into your home. Swinging her death glare at the mistress of the house, The old beauty radiated a murderous intent that covered her whole existence. Apparently, unrequited love could blind even the most vile and wicked of hearts. Despite being non-related to the matter, Mujin made it sound like she's the one in charge of Yunfeng's safety and not his own parents. Ignoring whatever that rude comment was about, Jun Tianyu's first reaction was to head for her son's room. Sadly, due to the numbness in her legs, the poor woman could only rely on her husband to help support herself. What is going on? Humph, of course it's that slut trying to murder the young lord. Grinding her molars in frustrated anger, Mujin's eye had turned a bloodshot red. If not for you, if not for the both of you, then none of this would have happened. If anything happens to my poor Yunfeng, then I won't let either of you go. The lightning strike of an 8th grade pill. 4. Due to the huge commotion of the rumbling in the sky, everyone within the vicinity had come out to see what's happening. To their horror, like the first 3, they're all looking up in shock at the crazy storm brewing in their view. This is an alchemic phenomenon created by someone refining an 8th grade Dan pill. One of the more experienced and knowledgeable alchemists explained after seeing the signs. Slightly frowning, Chief Wu Wei turns to the person and asked, "Are you sure it's an alchemic phenomenon?" "It should be, most likely." The alchemist himself also sounded somewhat uncertain. Years ago, when Lord Bai from the medicine sect was making his breakthrough into the 8th level, he also produced a similar phenomenon. I happened to be passing by the place, so I managed to witness it firsthand. It's just that compared to the trial from back then, this one seems more powerful and more destructive. Then, would my son be in danger? Jun Tianyu, wife, asks with worry in her eyes. No, the alchemist shakes his head. I heard only the one making the pill would be affected by the danger and everyone else in the vicinity would be fine. Then what about Miss Bai Yen? She's only a monarch rank. Would she be able to withstand an alchemic trial of such caliber? The madam urgently asks, afraid for the worse. Ugh, this I'm not sure either. Back then, when Lord Bai made his breakthrough, the man was already at an extremely high level. The young lady is too fresh, so I'm unable to discern the outcome. Heaving a long sigh, the alchemist shakes his head in disappointment at his own inability. Then what are the consequences if she fails? Biting her lower lip, the madam almost didn't want to know the answer. She's not an alchemist, so it's not all that surprising for her to not know the details. Besides, how many 8th grade alchemists are there? Aside from Bai Yan's grandfather and her Shifus from the Holy Land, there are only a few other hermits hiding up in the mountains and such. Stumbling for a safe answer, the alchemist decides to give the cold hard truth anyways. The soul will be destroyed. That's right, the consequences of not being able to resist the trial would be the destruction of their soul. Faltering back and almost losing her balance, Jun Tianyu's face immediately showed a layer of pain, like someone just poured acid into her heart. This won't do. I must see the girl in person before I can be at ease. Wife, you mustn't be impulsive. Chief Wu Wei hurries to stop the woman. If you rush in now, then it will definitely affect the lady. Even if she wasn't in danger, she would be after your interruption. Halting in her footstep, the madam unwillingly clenches her fist in frustration. Ha, 8th grade Dan pill? Mujin sneered sarcastically. A 20-something girl can refine an 8th grade product? If she can do that, then I'm a 9th grade alchemist. Ha ha ha. That's it. Turning all of her rage and resentment into one single blow, the madam directly flings her fist right into the impudent old wench's face and sends her spinning into midair. Then, as a finishing blow before the bitch could land back down, she jumps right up to end it with an elbow slam that left a crackling small crater in its wake. Puking blood from her mouth at a profuse rate, Mujin looked up in dismay at her assailant. She never thought that, with her status and power, the other side would dare lay a hand on herself. This was especially true when there are so many people around themselves. Likewise, the other members of the Misty Fairy House were looking over in stunned astonishment. In their view, the image of the madam was that of a virtuous wife who's both gentle and kind. Never in their wildest dreams would they expect the woman to beat someone in open public. Climbing up after much struggle, Mujin makes a couple of heavy coughs before managing to regain her strength. Madam, Which part of what I said there is wrong? There's no way she could be an 8th grade alchemist. Nor are those flashes from the storm cloud Real lightning bolts. Gnashing her teeth till it hurts. The old hag resented everything. From her own injury to the fact that she's being shamed before her peers, anything that so much as moves was within her range of fire. What did that little slut do to earn the chief and his wife's trust so much? Eh? A voice suddenly cuts in from above. It's powerful and old of someone with experience in life. It looks like I came just in time. To think there would be another out there who is about to break into the 8th grade of their alchemic profession. Looks like there will be another of my level very soon in this world. The lightning strike of an 8th grade pill 5. Mujin's face froze over. From what was a flaring, irritable expression, had turned into a look of disbelief after catching a glimpse of who just barged into their conversation. Bai Changfeng? The person is actually the lord of the medicine sect, Bai Changfeng. Lord Bai, you're here? Chief Wu Wei heaves a sigh of relief at the sight of the old man. You mean to say you are certain that is the result of someone trying to refine an 8th grade Dan pill? Wouldn't you know it yourself? Pricking his brow at the odd question, the old grandpa looked rather baffled by this. This alchemist is your people, why are you not aware of who's in there when you are their leader? But compared to the one I experienced years ago during my first attempt at making a breakthrough into the 8th grade, this one is much more violent. That fact alone is enough for me to discern the recipe is at least in the upper tier. His lips had curved into a faint smile, oblivious to the fact that Mujin's complexion had turned a ghastly white over his statement. It seems my trip this time is not in vain. To be able to meet someone at my level is a true honor. Sighing, Chief Wu Wei shakes. But the one in there refining is only a monarch rank. Monarch rank. Bai Changfeng's calm attitude instantly changed into a fitting rage. How outrageous! How can a mere monarch rank's body endure the destructive force of the lightning strikes created by an alchemic trial? Is that person dead in the brain? The individual should be well over 60 by now. How could they not understand something so simple? The old man's body was practically shaking due to the frustration and irritation he felt. It's hard enough to meet another person at his cultivation level. It's even harder to meet an alchemist with as much insight. Now, before he could even get to know the other party and have some verbal exchanges of knowledge, the other person's going to be struck down by their own folly? If the person inside somehow survives and come out of there, then I will definitely teach him a good lesson. Fortunately, Bai Changfeng didn't know the person in there was his own granddaughter. Otherwise, the ones to face his ire right now would be these from the Misty Fairy House. It wouldn't be an exaggeration for him to openly declare war if that's the case. Making an awkward gesture, the chief sounded embarrassed in his voice. The one inside, she's not 60-something, she's only 20-something years old. 20-something years old? This time it was the old lord's turn to be taken aback. There is someone else in this world who is as talented as my granddaughter? My sweet granddaughter is only at the higher level of the king rank and is capable of refining up to the 7th grade in her alchemy. To think there is someone just as great in that room right now and is trying for an 8th grade. As far as he knows, Bai Yan was only at the king rank prior to the girl's departure for the demon realm. Hence the reason why he couldn't connect the dots. A few months was too short of a period for most to make an advance like so. Lord Bai, Jun Tianyu wife, suddenly hurls herself up to the old man's side and made a firm grab for that arm. Can you find a way to save her inside there? I'm sorry, but only the lady in there can save herself now. No one can interfere when it has come to this. He firmly shakes his head. Of course, if Bai Changfeng knew who was in there, then it's doubtful this old grandpa could remain so calm. Heck, he might just dart in there and make the loudest and biggest commotion of them all. The madam, on the other hand, could feel her body slowly losing strength as she fell backwards. Her eyes could not leave the doorway at all because her heart ached like it's being ripped out and then smashed into mush. Compared with the shock hovering in the air though, Mujin's heart only had resentment still as usual. Damn it, that little bitch is really refining an 8th grade Dan pill? No matter, with her strength and body, she would surely perish under the force of those lightning strikes. Back inside the bedroom, Bai Yan remains focused on the task at hand, allowing the electrifying bolts of energy to harden and refine her body. The pain was excruciating. Even so, she endures until finally, bang! Among the many strikes coming down, this one was exceptionally huge and made an ear-deafening boom to all those looking. Bai Yan didn't fare so well. Letting the trace of blood to seep out of the corner of her mouth, the woman shudders for a good moment before she could even begin to compose herself back together. That's only the second main strike. I still have 7 more to go. Showing a faint smile at her own predicament, the resolve in her voice could not be denied. I will make it through. I've done it before in my last life. I will do it again in this life. The lightning strike of an 8th grade pill 6. With each main thunderstrike coming down, the intensity of the bolts would increase by 2-fold. So, by the time the third one came, it had caused so much damage to Bai Yan's body that she ended slugging right down to the floor as a result of the pressuring force. Fortunately, the woman's a stubborn one. In the last moment before her consciousness caved, she gripped her hands into a ball and stood right back up out of pure perseverance. Again! Boom! Before she could say more, the 4th thunder had come again. Bai Yan didn't care though, nor was she scared. Confronting the bolt of intense heat, her eyes stared intently upwards to take it head-on. Poof! This time she literally threw up blood after suffering the hit. Wiping the corner of her mouth, which only caused the red fluid to stain her cheeks, she became rather wary. This is not normal. These thunderstrikes are far too strong for an 8th grade alchemic trial. Compared to the ones I experienced in my previous life, it's as strong as the 9th grade ones. What is going on here? The intensity should never be this high. If it continues like so, then my body will disintegrate under that might before it's over. But it's too late to turn back now. Left with no choice, she braves herself for what's to come and grew more determined than ever after eyeing the patient lying next to her in the bed. I will save you. Regardless of the price, I will save this person. Perhaps the man himself had heard her voice because a droplet of tear had inexplicably trickled down the corner of those eyes. That muttering mouth sounds like it wants to say something, but no sound ever came forth. And by this time Bai Yan was solely focused back to the objective, couldn't see it. Again! Following suit were 3 other intense thunderstrikes, each stronger than the last. Afterwards, the complexion on the girl's face could only be called frightening. It's dreadfully white like blood has left her entirely, causing that face to look like a ghost. I can't give up. If I give up now, then no one can save him anymore. In that second, the 8th bolt had come down as if to meet her demand, causing that whole body to fall to the ground entirely. Despite the insane amount of damage she was suffering, the effects were rather dazzling, like she's covered in a halo, shimmering and glowing. One last one. Struggling to force a smile, she attempts to crawl back up for the final blow. Once I get through this, then it will be over. But lo and behold, the last would always be the most dangerous. Unlike the previous strikes, this thunderbolt was at a whole new level compared to anything she's endured thus far. Success and I will get what I want, failure and I will die, so be it. Closing her eyes, the woman quietly readies her spirit and body for the final clash. Yet, the expected pain never came. Instead, there were only the faint contour of a shadow in front of herself when she opened those eyes again to search for the reason. Why? Why is he here? Why? Why is he fending off the last attack for me? Trembling right into her heart, Bai Yan wanted to reach out to grasp onto the figure for some sort of answer. Unfortunately for the weakened her, the shadowy contour dissipated as soon as those fingers made contact. Deet song. Covering her mouth, tears came slipping down those cheeks in accordance with her muffled sobbing. Plat! Just then, Bai Yan's ear had caught onto the splitting sound of something inside her storage bag. In a hurry, she immediately pulled out said item and discovered it was a flower made out of carrot. This was a gift given to her by Deet Song when their son kept nagging to his old man to cook something inside the homely kitchen. Though the dishes themselves didn't turn out so great, downright disgusting, the husband did produce one decent product, and that was this ordinary-looking flower carved using the hands of love. Even after their separation, Bai Yan never had the heart to toss it away. Thankfully, a moment of softness was now paying off in full. If her guesses are right, there should be a wisp of the demon lord's power sealed inside the object. It's this energy that blocked off the thunderstrike just now. As to the reason why Bai Yen didn't sense it beforehand, it's likely due to the difference in their strength. The lightning strike of an 8th grade pill 7. Bai Yen felt dreadfully weak in the legs. Finding a nicer spot to lie down, her face was now smothered with tears as she grasped tightly onto the token of their bond. There's too much emotions running through her mind, and too much former events of her time with Deetsong replaying itself like a movie. Eventually, the fatigue causes her eyes to close in on itself. Why did it come to this? If he's going to leave behind something to protect me, then why did he send someone to kill me? What exactly happened that day? Slowly, her wariness and doubt propels her consciousness over the edge, and she soon slipped away into an uncertain slumber. Not far away inside a cave of a certain valley, Deetsong was in the middle of meditating to heal his injuries when he suddenly jerked open his eyes. Grasping at his chest, he leaned in against the rocky wall like he's in massive pain all of a sudden. Wohu! Bai Xiaqin quickly rushes over after noticing the sudden change. Arching his head upwards in order to support his old man, the boy's expression was full of concern. I'm fine. Don't worry about me. It's your mother that you should be worried about. She was in danger just now. Rubbing his son's head, Deetsong explains the reasoning, which had the opposite effect of calming the mood down. Don't worry, she's safe. Since the wisp of power he left behind inside the carrot flower has been used, it could only mean his wife remains alive and safe for now. As to why he's so certain, it's because he used could fend off even a celestial rank master. Now this also explains why Deetsong only flew into a rage back when he became informed of his shadow guards pursuing his wife for her life. The fact that the power didn't activate before meant she was never in danger of being killed. Otherwise he would have felt it firsthand. Xiaqin, you can see for yourself too. There are too many dangers around your mother right now. You need to tell me where she is so I can go protect her. Like before when he deceived the boy into the demon realm, he's going to use the same tactic to deceive the boy into leading him to his wife. He's the kid's father, so he understands that using force won't work with this rascal. Tilting his head a little, Bai Xiaqin appears to be struggling on trying to come to a decision. In the end, he ended shaking his head still and made a few sobbing cries. You mean you need to go back and ask your mother first? Beaming with light in his eyes, Deetsong asks. The little fox nods vehemently in return. That's right, only if mother agrees then I can bring you to see her. Okay, you can go find your mother now. Don't worry about me. I'll be fine right here. The man's heart thumped with increasing intensity, leaving his voice hoarse and dry. In the end, despite his suspicion, Bai Xiaqin eventually ran out of the cave after looking back a few times. The boy didn't fully trust his old man to do as he says, but the worry for the precious woman of his heart got the better of him. Sure enough, as soon as his presence was out of sight and away from the cave, Deetsong's mouth immediately curved into a radiant smirk. Oh, how low have I fallen! In order to see my wife, I'm now forced to use drastic means just to trick my own blood. Well, at least now I can track his trail and know exactly the places he went from this point forward. In light of that reprimanding tone, the man's expression clearly showed a sense of joy of what's to come. Oh Yen, you will never break free from my arms in this lifetime. I won't let you. Even if I have to search through heaven and earth, I will find you and be together again. Compared to the sly old fox that was Deetsong, the inexperienced little fox that was Bai Xiaqin could never outdo his old man. The mere fact that he's left to search for his mother had sold them both out. In the short recess of rest that Bai Yen took after losing consciousness, the woman had not only regained her strength, she's also brimming with energy at having her body refined to a new height. And likewise, the pills inside her cauldron that's placed not far away inside the room was also spewing an incredible smell, indicating its success. The furious Bai Chongfeng won. The patient Yunfeng felt like he's just woken up from a long, long dream. The dream was a beautiful one, the love of his life smiling at him, allowing him to forget the pain of forever separation. Ninger. Unconsciously his mouth murmured this name out using his dry, hoarse voice. This is not a dream? He waves his hand up to the face in order to cover the blinding light coming through the broken ceiling. In that instant, The patient just froze there in mid-action because through the small cracks of his fingers, a very familiar and longing contour was now within reach. Ninger, is that really you? Ninger, brimming with a surprised light in her own eyes, Bai Yen stared intently at the man who's looking over. Does he mean my mother? I am not Bai Ning. After a moment of silence, she replied in a clear, crisp voice. You're not Ninger? A look of disappointment promptly filled the patient's face. So Ninger returning to me is still only just a dream. 20 years have passed from when you and Bai Ning separated. Do you think I could be her? Bai Yan's word leaves the already weakened man at a difficult threshold of whether to accept reality or fall into self-deceit. 20 years? So such a long time has passed since then. But you, realizing something important, Yun Feng promptly swung his head over to Bai Yan's face. If I remember right, Ninger was already pregnant when I left. That's why I came back to tell father I wanted to get married. But who could have guessed? What awaited us would be forever separation. Under the hopeful gaze of the man, Bai Yan eventually came clean. Of course, that's only after her lips quivered so slightly from her own nervousness. Bai Ning is my mother. Boom! Those words were explosive, sending the patient into a stifling state of glee and fear. After a long while, he eventually reached out his big, huge hands in order to caress his daughter's face. However, the other part of his emotions, fear, stopped him mid-track and caused it turn back down. If you're Ninger's daughter, then does that mean you're my child? Trembling in his eyelash, Yun Feng eventually closes his eyes in acceptance. To think my own daughter is already this old after a simple dream. How's your mother? Is she doing well? She must still blame me for leaving without a word. Yun Feng's eyes were mixed with tension, fear, and unease when mentioning the love of his life. He's afraid for the worse and that the girl's mother would never forgive him. Bai Yan's hand instinctively reached for her own chest at the question. She now understands why her heart would hurt so much when she saw the dreadful state this man was in earlier. Is this called the connection of blood? My mother was seriously in the year I was born. In order to keep me safe, she entrusted my upbringing to others and never appeared again. I do not know if she's alive or not. I do not know if she's alive or not. No, I don't believe this. My wife would never leave me. This can't be happening. In his desperation, the patient wanted to climb out of bed in order to search for the woman. Unfortunately for him, his body was very weak from the many years of being bedridden, causing him to tumble down from the bedside where Bai Yan had to rush over to catch him. The furious Bai Chong Feng, too. Heartbroken and frustrated, Yun Feng's bodily functions quickly spiraled downwards. Showing a face of utter pain, he spews out a mouthful of blood at the misfortunate news. This is all my fault. If I wasn't fooled by these people and returned home, then I wouldn't have lost Ninger for over 20 years. I can't continue like this. I won't allow it. Regardless of where you are, my love, I will come find you and be together again. Outside the door, Chi Fu Wei and the others could all hear the painful cries of the patient. Many were ecstatic at the successful recovery, but more were showing astonishment over Bai Yan's ability to create an 8th-grade Dan pill. Therefore, just about everyone were running over to the bedroom, leaving only Bai Chong Feng in the background like a crowd pleaser. There's no way someone like the old grandpa wouldn't want to go investigate who could be so capable, but he's an outsider and this was a family matter. If he hastened himself and barged in there without invitation, then it's surely inappropriate. Elder Muzhin, Zhongnan older, sneered in contempt at the old hag. Clicking his tongue sarcastically, he wants to emphasize his point. What more do you have to say to this? Humph! Muzhin promptly snarled in retaliation. So what if that girl could refine an 8th-grade Dan pill? Nothing but a slut born of a whore. As an elder of the Misty Fairy House, I would be the first to object to the idea of her returning to her ancestry. You know my student's mother? Zhongnan's face sank at the implication of those words, his aura growing increasingly cold and dangerous. Oh right. None of you know this, so I'll enlighten you bunch of knuckleheads with the truth. That slut looks very similar to the whore who tried to seduce the young lord years ago. I'm assuming she secretly gave birth to his child after tricking her way into his bed. The Zhong brothers were stiff as a rock at that last bit. Their eyes had a look of disbelief like it's the most incredible news they've ever heard, but more of it was joy and elation. If what this witch says is true, then the girl is the young lord's daughter. That means our misty fairy house has an heir. Don't get too happy just yet. The whore from back then is a person who idolized the rich. Because of the young lord not revealing his true identity, that person ended up running away with another wealthy individual. Heck, we can't even be certain this little slut is related or just some brat trying to sneak her way into our ranks. Scoffing a derisive chuckle, Muzhen proudly states her opinion for all to hear. You shut up. Zhongnan snaps and roars out. Don't think the chief and madam would let you off for this. They're just busy and don't have the time to deal with you. Wait until they're done. Then you'll get what you deserve. Casting a sideway glare at the old senior, Muzhen didn't care what this fella had to say to herself. Instead, she began to stroll towards the bedroom like she owned the place. Zhongnan was absolutely livid by this point and wanted to attack right then and there. Thankfully, the younger brother Zhongbei decides to step in and grabbed at that arm. Shaking his head. Don't, Yunfeng has only just recovered from his illness, so we mustn't let our arguments disturb his rest. What's more, we still need Muzhen to get a better picture of what happened to Yenner's mother. After we finish probing her for the details, then nothing will stop us from exacting our revenge. As frustrated and unwilling as Zhongnan was, he knew that's the optimal solution for now. Pressing down that anger, he too had begun to head for the bedroom. This misty fairy house sure is noisy. Making a mild shake of his head, Bai Chongfeng didn't care for all this drama and took it as nothing more than a little play for himself. After all, it's unrelated to himself in his opinion. If only this old grandpa knew who Muzhen was referring to, then perhaps his attitude wouldn't be so calm. Young lord. As soon as the old witch rushed into the room, the first thing she saw was the decadent-looking Yunfeng leaning against the bedrest. Due to the emotions running up to those eyes, this old hag couldn't resist wiping a trickle of tear coming out of the corner. The furious Bai Chongfeng, 3. Yunfeng's first reaction upon making contact with the old hag was a cold, hard glare. Get out! Muzhen was completely taken aback by the shout. Unlike right now, the man from many years ago had always showed respect for herself, so this form of the young lord didn't fit her image of him. For more than 20 years my mind may have been lost in a haze of confusion, but that doesn't mean I don't know anything. The old witch's appearance was undoubtedly a stimulant to the already unstable Yunfeng. Therefore, despite his weakened state, the man manages to muster enough strength to shoot over a sword-like glare to Muzhen. There's an unabashed disgust in his eyes. That's how much he disliked the woman. How many times have you slipped into my room while my parents aren't paying attention? And how many times have you tried to do illicit things to me? My mind may not be at its clearest over the years, but that doesn't mean I would forget there's a woman waiting for me out there. Muzhen, I respected you as an elder, but your behavior really makes me sick. The room had turned deathly quiet following each statement coming out of the patient's mouth. And since his voice was loud and clear, even Bai Chongfeng, who remained outside, could hear the whole story. Wow! This misty fairy house is such a mess. I'm so glad it's not my home. Otherwise, I would be disgraced to the point where I have to hide my own face. Once I meet that 8th grade alchemist, I should go back before I get any more involved. Sighing at the world's depressing lack of moral integrity, Bai Chongfeng really didn't want to stay at this filthy place. Inside the room, aside from Jun Tianyu, wife, who had long become aware of the ulterior motives of this old witch, the other 3 respected elders who also came inside were left flabbergasted. Their mouths kept working like they wanted to say something, but it's too much for their brains to process. Aside from the murmuring mumbles, no words could be pronounced. Chief Wu Wei, on the other hand, didn't go down that route. Flaring into an explosive rage, he nearly completely loses it in his demeanor. Muzhen! Despite jolting her body at the ear-defeating roar, the shameless old hag actually had the nerve to retort with a ridiculing cackle of her own. No matter how bad I am, I can't be any more worse than an ordinary girl. A woman without power or influence has no right to be at the young lord's side. Besides, pausing in her voice to organize her defense, Yunfeng is the one chosen by the goddess. Now that he's recovered, it's time he married the great being. A mere wench who only knows greed is not worthy of him. Though exposed to her filthy ways, the old woman did have a point in the eyes of the other people around. Aside from the Zhong brothers and the two parents present, none were willing to speak out in protest to that claim. Elder Muzhin is right. We can't afford to offend the goddess. That's right. The goddess is not only a person from the celestial realm. She's also the woman pursued by the demon lord and celestial lord. The fact that the young lord could be chosen by someone so great is his fortune. We can't miss this opportunity. If our misty fairy house can appease the goddess, then it's equivalent of forging a bridge between us and those in the upper realm. We must. Under normal circumstances, the patient himself would have went mad by now after hearing all those stimulating words. But now, his expression was extraordinarily calm to the point where it's frightening. Years ago I lost my wife and daughter because of you people. Now I'm back. I will never be any of your puppets. If any of you bastards dare to get in my way, then I would rather die before I allow any of you to get with your ways. Daughter? The threat was definitely damning for those who heard it. But it's the word daughter that fully captured everyone's attention. They're filled with shock in the eyes. The young lord has a daughter? Turning to Bai Yan's presence, Yun Feng's gaze turned from a cold, hard glare to a soft, gentle look of a father facing their children. Child, you've suffered during this time. Don't worry. I won't let anyone bring harm towards you again. The furious Bai Chongfeng, for Jun Tian, you had her speculations, but now for it to be confirmed was enough to send her over the edge of tears. Did you hear that, Wu Wei? She's our granddaughter, our granddaughter. Yun Feng, she's your daughter and our granddaughter. Heaving a long sigh at how cruel fate could be at times, Chief Wu Wei holds onto his wife's hand and pats her in a comforting manner. Yes, dear, I heard you. We now have a granddaughter. We finally have a grandchild. Feeling words alone weren't enough to express her emotions. The madam pushed away her own husband and tightly grabbed onto Bai Yan's hand this time. Child, no wonder I felt so close to you as soon as I saw you. This is what they call the connection of blood, truly a miracle. Bai Yan didn't have the heart to withdraw her hands despite the awkward discomfort. Madam, even if you want her to be your granddaughter, you must first make sure she's correctly your kin. Muzhin stepped forward and cocked the most annoying and irritable smirk ever. Elders, I want to point out something crucial for everyone to hear. That woman from back then is a whore who would sleep with any man who gives her money. We have no way to know for certain this girl here is even related. None of the elders responded or answered her claim. Regardless of it being true, Bai Yan was Yun Feng's biological daughter. The mere fact that she's able to reach the monarch rank and refine an 8th grade Dan pill proved she's extraordinarily talented. This fact alone meant they must think twice before taking sides. The patient himself had long taken a heavy disgust against these people in the Misty Fairy House, so it's already a great act of forgiveness that he didn't erupt as soon as he regained his sanity. Therefore, it's no surprise that Bai Yan would become his sore spot and any form of negativity would ignite the fireworks. Muzhin, you're looking for death. Yun Feng, exclaiming in great shock, Jun Tian, you mother, hurried to stop her son from exerting that body. You are still sick and needs rest. Let mother handle this. I will solve everything. She's regretting it now, regretting the fact that she didn't finish off the wretched old hag earlier. Because of that mistake, his son might even have a relapse back to the old state as a result of the blasted woman's prancing and nasty remarks. Bang! But the madam already had her chance earlier in the main reception hall. Taking the lead, Bai Yan directly stomps her foot into Muzhin's chest and caused the old woman to stumble backwards in order to retreat. Though the girl's strength only hovered around the mid-level of the monarch rank, a tier below herself, Muzhin still found it humiliating to be attacked by a brat not even half her age. Little girl, you are no more than a whore's daughter. Don't think I don't know what you are trying to conceive with your plot. Once the goddess arrives and see what you're doing, you can forget about escaping death. Bai Yan could no longer hold back her laughter anymore, chuckling like she's faced with a humorous joke. Goddess? If she dares to show herself in front of me, then I can make sure she will never leave again. Also, Scanning her surroundings, the girl deliberately activated her powers to allow that voice to reach every nook and cranny of the chief's estate. He is leaving with me today. Whoever dares to block my path, I will slice them down with my blade and crush the Misty Fairy house. Bayan's never been in the habit of relying on other people's strength to do her biddings. But for the sake of her father, she's now seriously contemplating the choice of utilizing the other two major powers to crush this filthy place. And so, her threat was filled to the brim with confidence, leaving many seriously at awe over her words. Back over in the courtyard that's not too far away, Bai Chongfeng was in the middle of waiting for the host to finish up their business when he suddenly picked up this familiar voice. In an instant, his expression changed from surprise to pure rage, like he's about to strangle the closest servant nearby. Even the grounds were crackling under his mighty pressure. Not even a few seconds later, Muzhin was about to swing up another long sequence of tirades again when the door to the room suddenly got blown apart, causing the nearest occupant inside, aka Muzhin herself, to go flying forward and crashing face first to the floor. And since the blow was oozing with power, she had the unfortunate case of taking the aftershock of the blast into her chest. Who dares? Shooting her irate face up to confront the one who attacked herself from the back, the impudent old wench was just about to lash out before she realizes who it was. From what should have been a loud banshee screeching for bloody murder, had devolved into a squeamish hamster who wanted nothing but to hide herself into the tiniest corner of the room. The furious Bai Chongfeng 5. If it was the chief, then she could still survive out of consideration. She saved the young lord's life back then. But if she provoked this old man, then the fate awaiting her would be certain death or worse. Like Muzhin, Bayan was also too startled for words. For one, the girl had planned to escape before her grandfather arrives after catching wind of his visit. But now, she's caught red-handed and instantly lost a lot of her momentum compared to a few seconds ago. Why are you here? Still fuming with smoke coming out of his head, Bai Chongfeng was more pained than anything else really. So this brat is the alchemist mentioned by Chief Wu Wei? Is she trying to make me die from heart attack? How could she do something so rash like attempting something so dangerous? That's a recipe which would cause an alchemic trial. A simple error means the destruction of her soul. Chief, so your cheap granddaughter offended the medicine sect. Haha, it looks like the Misty Fairy house is doomed at this rate. Upon catching the enraged look in the old lord's eye, Muzhin just couldn't keep her trap shut and started to get cynical again. Then before that filthy tongue could say any more, Bai Chongfeng's hand had moved, sweeping a gust of energy forward. The roaring force creating by the gesture makes a direct impact to the woman's chest and sends her flying backward until her existence eventually makes a loud cracking sound at the wall. Blood kept pouring out of her mouth this time like she suffered a serious injury inside. You shut up. The old lord's body was starting to exude a visible layer of killing intent, indicating how serious he was. From now on, my medicine sect is forever at odds with the Misty Fairy house. If there's you, then there's no me. If there's me, then there's no you. Everyone was completely left in the dark on why the old grandpa would say this from out of the blue. To them, the old guy had clearly lost it in the head. What's going on? He was still good just now, why is he suddenly declaring war? Seeing Bai Chongfeng angrily stomping over to Bai Yan's location, everyone quickly came up with an idea. It can't be. This girl offended the medicine sect? Growing more nervous by the second, Jun Tianyu, wife, transforms into a mother hen and hurried to block in front of her granddaughter's body, vigilant in those eyes. Lord Bai, no matter what happened in the past, she is still just a young child. Why don't you let it go for this one time? What's more, our Misty Fairy house isn't any weaker than the medicine sect. There's no need to go this far for some small misunderstanding. Perhaps it's the preconceived impression she had of the Misty Fairy house. But Bai Yan could honestly say she didn't have any fond feelings for this place. Coupled this with the fact that it's them who caused her parents to separate, it only made the fact worse. However, Jun Tianyu's protective act changed that and tore down some of that negativity she had. This is between me and Yenner. You people from the Misty Fairy house stay out of it. In the old grandpa's view, it's all these people's fault that his precious granddaughter needed to go through such risk. Then looking at the singed appearance around the hair and clothes, The girl literally looked like someone that's been sent into a laundry machine, but worse. It's not hard for this biased old man to want some payback. Then just when Jun Tianyu was still befuddled by Chong Feng's form of address to her own granddaughter, the old man had already reached over from the side to wrangle the poor girl out from behind like an eagle holding a sheep cling. You're getting real bold now, aren't you? You actually got the nerve to refine an 8th grade recipe. Why didn't those thunderbolts beat you to death so you can learn your lesson? Is it because I'm doting you that you're brave enough to do as you please regardless of the danger? Compared with the proud and temperamental old Lord Lon, this grandfather of hers had always been on the gentle side. For him to lash out as well in this manner showed how much her behavior had hurt him inside. Grandfather, I was wrong. Knowing she's at fault, Bai Yen throws out an apology first and admits her mistake. However, she immediately followed it up with another sentence. But if I had another chance, I would still do it again. Grandfather? The crowds of gathering onlookers were dumbfounded. This girl is Lord Bai's long-lost granddaughter? If this is the case, then Ninger is Bai Chongfeng's. The patient on the bed shuddered at the realization as well. Bai Ning? Bai Chongfeng? Why didn't I think of it before? The furious Bai Chongfeng, 6. I've said it before that I find her oddly familiar. To think she's Bai Ning's girl. Jun Tianyu had seen the younger version of Bai Ning during a visit, hence the reason why she still held an impression. As for Yun Feng himself, the man never left the Misty Fairy House until that venture, nor did he interact with anyone from the other 2 powers. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been so blind to his love's background or identity. Lord Bai, are you really Yenner's grandfather and Miss Ning's father? Zhongnan grew ecstatic inside. You know where my daughter is? Clenching up in his guts, the old lord would dismiss the fault coming from these people if it means he could get the slightest hint of his daughter's whereabout. Well, excluding Muzhin, of course, that one he's going to kill regardless. Back when young Master Yun Feng and Miss Ning fell in love, it was I and my brother who was charged with bringing him back after we snatched the mission away from Muzhin. Us brothers didn't like the idea, but the goddess's will is to take him as her husband. Bang! Bai Chongfeng's anger came boiling over again. These people dare to break up my daughter's marriage? Unforgivable. Grandfather. Bai Yen interjects, her brow furrowing. He is my Shifu, so you mustn't scare him. Sure enough, the last comment had a quelling effect on that temper. Go on. Later, Zhongnan casts a disgusted glance over to the one responsible. The elder council locked the young lord away, refusing to let him leave the Misty Fairy House again. Muzhin claimed she wanted to know what sort of woman could cause him to be so fascinated, so she went out to investigate. By the time she returned again, that bitch told everyone, spreading claims that Miss Ning is an unkept woman who likes to flirt around with other men. These details are already known to the old lord due to the commotion from earlier, but unlike before, he now knows the one they're talking about was his own daughter. That means the needed requirement for him to explode has come, and it could be seen in the thick layer of murderous aura slowly seeping out of his skin and onto the ground. And she claims her ladyship sold her body out for money and had run off with someone else after finding a wealthier man. Of course, the specific words weren't so bland or kind back then, just that Zhongnan couldn't bring himself to say it out loud. He's afraid it would dirty his own mouth with those foul words. Ha ha ha! The old lord bellows out a mocking laugh like a mad wolf. My daughter, you people believed my precious daughter is someone who would sell her body out for money. Ha ha ha, my shining jewel, the young lady of my medicine sect. To think she would be trampled upon by ants like the bunch of you here. What a farce. What a laugh. Know this, all of you. My daughter Bai Ning can take any man that she wants, and they would crawl to her feet if they must just to get a glance at her beauty. Don't even think for a second any of you here are worthy of licking her feet. Letting his words sink in so none would have any delusions of what he meant. Bai Chongfeng then shifts his attention to the most important individual that's currently huddling at the corner of the room. You over there. You think the Misty Fairy House can save you? My medicine sect is also one of the 3 major powers in this world. Even for this filthy place that harmed my daughter, it's at best only on equal footing if not less. Pale in her complexion, Muzhin's whole existence was a shivering mess as she curled into a fetal position. I clearly checked the slut's background. How could she suddenly go from an ordinary girl to the lady of the medicine sect? Why? Why? Spill it, where is my daughter? The old lord literally wanted to rip the woman apart and shred her to pieces. Back then, was it you who injured her? Is it you? Despite the frantic state she was in, Mujin still had enough awareness to know if the truth comes to light, then she's doomed for sure. The fact that those assassins were from her end must remain a secret, regardless of the torture or punishment. You say Bai Ning was injured? The madam asks after catching on to that last bit of information. The furious Bai Chongfeng, 7. Yes. My daughter was chased and hunted down by an unknown force. Those pursuers eventually caused enough injury to make it severe enough that she had to entrust her own newborn child to a friend. Sadly, the lady entrusted with my granddaughter passed away early, leaving my dear child to suffer miserably in that home. This is all Mujin and the Misty Fairy House's fault. If not for them, my daughter wouldn't have gone missing and my granddaughter wouldn't have had to suffer so much during her childhood. But there was one question bothering this old grandpa still. His daughter clearly could have returned home to the medicine sect. Why must she entrust the baby to a friend instead of himself? There must be something I don't know yet. A missing piece of the puzzle. Standing there in a daze for a good while, Chief Wu Wei eventually came back to his senses and turned to the one who knew it all. Mujin, what is the meaning of this? Who harmed Bai Ning? Turning slightly green from her already pale face. How would I know, Chief? You don't know? The man huffs a snort. Who was it that told me Bai Ning is only an ordinary girl from a mundane household? And who was it that said she's nothing but a person who sells her own body for benefit? Now you are telling me you don't know who harmed her? You really take everyone for a fool, don't you? I am almost certain now the one who ordered the pursuers to attack the lady is you, isn't it? Isn't it? Inwardly gnashes her bloodied teeth. If I had known beforehand that slut would breed a bastard child, I would have went in person to finish her off. Then none of this would have happened. Just when Mujin was brooding over her mistake, Yun Feng, the man himself, had snuck over with both hands drawn, gripping tight. His mad and fierce look gave no doubt he wanted to choke the woman to death. It's fine if you won't admit it. As long as I know it's you, then it's fine. You harmed my wife and still want to dirty my family? I will pay you back for everything. Bai Chongfeng didn't raise any objections about the remark of his daughter being another man's wife, only watching silently from one side. His gaze appeared almost approving in that faint nod. It's unavoidable that this old grandpa would behave this way. Sure, he could ignore the fault of his supposed son-in-law since he didn't mean to leave the mother and child behind. But it's still he who left after being deceived. Grandfather. Bai Yen figured it's time and decides to bring out the main dish. Regarding what happened to my mother, I have a witness. Xing-Yi Dragoness. Go bring him here. At the drop of that command, a woman in a radiant blue dress had waltzed in, her arm dragging a middle-aged man which she readily threw to the floor. This act alone sent Mujin into a crazy fright. She recognizes that body. Isn't he supposed to be dead? Why is this slut bringing a dead corpse in here for? No one knew what's going on or what Bai Yen intends to do with a cold corpse, but what happened next was enough to make any grown man hurl their guts out, including those who've seen countless battles in life. Through the goading gesture of those fingers, a transparent soul of misty white gradually seeped out of that flesh and floated there within her grasp. Perhaps it's the fact that he's been ripped from his body, or the fact that he's denied the chance to move on. But that agonizing expression was eerily spooky and hair-raising. Though it's not making any sound at all, the screams of pure hell could easily be discerned through that howling scream of a face. It's well known that if a person dies, unless the soul was destroyed, they would always leave the body after 3 days in order to reincarnate. But this went beyond convention, for the girl had openly ripped a person's soul out from their body. So what does this mean for everyone? Nothing much aside from Mujin, who's now on the stage. The dirty deeds are surely going to be revealed through a dead man's mouth. And sure enough, that ghostly man who somehow managed to get a second wind at revenge pounced like the haunted ghost that he's become. The furious Bai Chongfeng 8. Those ghostly eyes were blood red, voice a shrilling howl like that of someone's fingernail scratching against a wooden plank. This being was in every sense a specter of vengeance than a soul. You? Losing all color from that face, Mujin hastens to step back from where she stood. Unfortunately for this vile existence of a woman, there's only a window behind her, leaving no other place to run or hide. Mujin, you are only afraid of us revealing your secret of killing that woman. That's why you murdered us all. We did so much for you. I did so much for you. No matter what, I will drag you to hell before I go. The murderous ghost charges in a vain attempt at stealing his former liege's life. An ethereal body has no way to make physical contact with real flesh, so all that accomplished was turning the woman a dreadful white. Mujin's heart was as cold as the dead right now. Looking around, her first instinct was to explain and deny. He's maligning me. I did nothing of that sort. I only killed him because he made a huge mistake. I really didn't. Pa! This slap across the face came from Hun Tianyu wife. She's trembling all over due to the intense rage coursing through those veins. In the end, all that hate and all that anger devolves into nothing but tears of frustration and self-disgust. Who allowed you to touch her? Hand clenching into a tight ball, the madam truly hated herself for acting so late. Do you really think we would keep tolerating your insubordination? I should have killed you years ago. Then maybe none of this would have happened. This evil which not only killed what was supposed to be my daughter-in-law, she's even trying to take my granddaughter as well. Blood seeping continuously out the corner of her mouth. Mujin didn't care what others had to say when things have reached this stage. In her mind, the only opinion she cares for remains to be on one person, and that was Yun Feng. Turning to look up, what returned for her prayers weren't the look of pity or sadness, only the unbridled fury of someone filled with hatred. My vendetta to avenge my wife will never end till the one responsible dies. Mujin, you will pay for what you did with your blood. Gnashing his teeth, Yun Feng squints his eyes into a menacing glare. But letting you die is too easy of a fate for someone like you. You killed my wife. Now I won't let you go unless I destroy your entirety. Boom! At the word, he directly punches the old witch's stomach, causing her to bend over in extreme pain till she's gagging for air. For those watching, none of them intervened, for they knew if they did, the next target of the leading family's ire would be them. The crime Mujin committed being too critical that it's beyond help. Sure enough, Yun Feng's continuous punching didn't stop even after the woman fell to the ground. He just kept pummeling her until one could hear audible cracks. Couldn't be helped. This man who's been lost in a world of delusion and madness for 20 years had nowhere to vent his frustration. And as it so happens, the one responsible for most of his misfortune now stands before him, letting him free to beat and slice with the blades as he please. As for Mujin herself, this woman had given up on her life entirely. There's no turning around at this stage. Reputation ruined, status destroyed, and her most inner secret revealed for all to ridicule. There's nothing else left to keep her in this world. Perhaps this is for the best. At least I can die by the hands of the man I love. Father! Suddenly, a voice throws itself into the frenzy, causing the beet-red man from continuing. Turning around, Yun Feng's eyes were starting to tear up. Just now, what did you call me? He's been waiting over 20 years for her to call him that. Now his wish has been fulfilled, so of course he's emotional. Don't let her blood dirty your hands. Want to die in the hands of the one you want? That's only if I give you that chance. Bai Yen snickers inside over the woman's disgusting nature. Okay. Pleased right into his eye, Yun Feng attempts to cover up the emotional joy he felt only to fail miserably with that soppy face. You? Mujin struggles to raise her head against the one looking down at herself. Once she realizes what the foe intends to do, her first reaction was a huge gasp of unease. What are you going to do? The furious Bai Chongfeng 9. Eat her. Facing Goldie, dragon, Bai Yen mildly gives her command like the order was nothing special. Can I refuse? The poor dragon gapes at what he's just heard. Truth is, mistress, meek in his tone, I can't get myself to swallow this human. Due to the repeated injuries she suffered thus far, plus those insulting words, Mujin had once again puked blood out from her lungs. Just that this time it came straight from her heart and left that part stinging like something just burst. Yener, Bai Chongfeng decides to speak up, his face an open frown. I want to bring her back to the medicine sect. This took Bai Yen by surprise. She didn't expect her grandfather to want someone like this. She hurt my daughter and insulted my granddaughter. Death is too cheap for her. Let me take her back home and I will find thousands of ways to make her pay for what she did in the most painful manner possible. All right, Bai Yen nods. I'll give you a Dan recipe as well to go with it. The medicine can revive someone even if they're a breath away from death. A perfect solution when she's about to die. Of course, there are consequences to such a thing. Whenever the user takes pain again, it would be magnified by many folds afterward. Lighting up in the eyes, the old grandpa sounded very pleased. As you wish, I won't let this person responsible for my daughter's suffering off. That said, Bai Chongfeng still hasn't forgotten the debt owed by Chief Wu Wei and his group of lackeys. Do the bunch of you still have opinions about my daughter's marriage? Embarrassed and awkward, the chief forces a smile in a vain attempt to smooth the situation. Chief Bai, let me explain first. Explain? Explain what? What's there to explain? You'd better go back and get ready to meet the challenge from my medicine sex. Twitching in the mouth, Chief Wu Wei immediately sneaks a peek to his son Yunfeng for help, hoping the connection there would earn him some leeway. As long as my son speaks up, then Bai Yen will soften up. By then both sides will remain harmonious, otherwise war would be unavoidable. However, the expected persuading words never came, only the inaction and ignoring attitude. Father-in-law, I am willing to leave the Misty Fairy House and take on your family name. Would you be willing to have me? Oomph. Chief Wu Wei coughs a few times after hearing those damning words. Wife, do you see that? They all say daughters like to side with others. Now it's our son who's siding with others. Not showing any compassion or pain over her husband's woe, Jun Tianyu instead came in front of her son's side and stood with him. Yunfeng, I am so happy that you recovered, so you can do whatever you like. What's more, I will also come with you to the medicine sect because I can already tell your father intends to give you away to that whatever goddess again. Towards this unified offense of mother and son, Bai Chongfeng was rather pleased inside over this. He's very angry still over his daughter's fate at the hands of these people, so the grudge he held only got suppressed, not dismissed. All right, my medicine sect is big and wealthy anyways. A few extra mouths to feed is nothing for us. Since your so-called husband and father is such a weak person inside, then it's best to leave him anyways. He too doesn't want such a cowardly in-law. Don't go too far, Bai Chongfeng. The chief was downright livid in his face. Not only does this old fart want to steal my son, he's also trying to steal my wife. I'm only enduring you because I don't want my son and my granddaughter to be sad. Don't think for a second I am scared of your medicine sect. I don't care. Bai Yen shrugs then to cut in, smiling all the way as she turned to the Zhong brothers. Shifus, do you two also want to come back to the medicine sect with me? Her grandfather was currently supporting her father. As the good daughter and granddaughter, it's only proper there be no internal conflict and only good support. And sure enough, Bai Chongfeng became rather satisfied inside. That's right, Yener is taking my side. So what if she's related to these people? It's always the grandfather that's the most important. The furious Bai Chongfeng 10. In terms of importance, the Misty Fairy House was definitely up there. But to the Zhong brothers who just had a new lease on life, their newfound student remains to be number one. What's more, the both of them knows fair well that Bai Yen wouldn't really make a move against her own relatives. Merely an act to scare the chief in order to get some good old payback for what he did years ago. I also want to go to the medicine sect. I won't be your son-in-law though, but I can be your godson. How about that? Meek in his demeanor, the womanizer decides to join in on the fun as well after getting the full picture from their conversation. He's the latest one to come over, so it took him a while to understand what's been happening. Or a granddaughter's husband is good too. Of course, that's something he would only say aloud if he wasn't related to Bai Yen. Now that he knows the girl was his niece, the idea had long left him. He may be a womanizer, but he's no pervert that's interested in incest. You, all of you, Chief Wu Wei nearly puked blood at this outrageous setup. Do they all want to drive me mad or something? Also, when did I ever say I want to give Yun Feng to that goddess? That's right. Bai Chong Feng happily adds oil to the mix by nodding approvingly. I only have a daughter and son in my lifetime. To be able to get another son from out of nowhere is not a bad deal at all. The womanizers I blew up with glee. Elder Bai, are you saying you agree? Oh father, you are my father from now on. Sun Huan, the chief snaps out at his second son. Your real father here isn't dead yet. How could you go recognize another person as your old man? Oh, what misfortune. How could I have created such an unfilial son? Puckering his lip to one side. And look at how big bro turned out. He's always been filial and obedient to you. And look what happened. In the end, you only wanted to give him to that goddess. Thank goodness I was young back then, so she didn't fancy me. But now that I'm older and handsomer than my brother, I can be sure she would ask for me instead. If I have to offer myself up to an old ancient hag, I would rather leave and become Elder Bai's son. From the womanizer's word alone, one could tell he too had a lot of complaints regarding the treatment of his older brother Yun Feng by the hands of these people. Now to become aware of the misfortunate fate of their family being separated for over 20 years, that displeasure only grew in kind. Shuddering at his own son's retort, Chief Wu Wei couldn't fault in the unfilial boy's logic. In the end, despite that moving jaw like he wants to speak, no words ever came like he's at a loss for a proper response. Why waste time with him? Let's go back my medicine sect so we can celebrate the new members to the family. Grumbling at the waste of time, the old grandpa decides to push for an early departure. Bai Chong Feng may not be a lot of things in his life, but he would never act like a coward who would use his own children to pray for peace. And that's exactly what Chief Wu Wei of the Misty Fairy House did. That knowledge made him feel disgusted just being in the person's presence. Chief Wu Wei, H.A. Wu Wei is such a fitting name for someone like you. Inaction is truly suited for a personality like yours. Note: Wu Wei actually means something similar to inaction in Chinese. For those wondering, every character in this has a name that means something to either the nature of their character or some event that they would experience further along the story. The sarcastic mockery completely leaves the chief too ashamed to look up. However, the discomfort of knowing he's about to lose his wife and children got the better of him. All right, Bai Chong Feng, I admit it was I who's at fault back then. For that I apologize. However, you can forget about taking away my wife and children. Shooting a peek in return. Are you sure you can stop us? Why not? Chief Wu Wei steps forward to put up a strong front. My Misty Fairy House and your medicine sect is equal in power. Even if we butt heads, you won't be able to come out on top. Quiet for a moment. Bai Chong Feng decides to bring in reinforcement. And if we add in the Holy Land? Holy Land? Our three forces have always been harmonious. And if I remember correctly, didn't you steal their elders' much-coveted genius recently? Don't tell me you intend to get them to join your side when you've done that? The furious Bai Chong Feng, 11. Ho ho. Bai Chong Feng only scoffs a laugh at the comment. This guy obviously doesn't know because the Holy Land's people already left when he came over that day. While their bickering and sly comments were continuing to ensue, a faint yet powerful voice had cut in again from the air, causing everyone to look over in that direction. What is going on here? Who's going to team up to deal with the Misty Fairy House? Bai Chong Feng, what are you doing here instead of staying at your medicine sect? These two old men felt slightly taken aback by who's already present, but that opinion soon changed to protest. Damn it. This old fart beat us to the punch again. He's here to rob our merit of helping Yenner with these from the Misty Fairy House. That must be why he's here. Ren-Yi, Qiu Shu Rong, what are you two doing here? Likewise, Chief Wu Wei also didn't expect these two fellas to arrive. I invited Bai Chong Feng, so it's normal for him to be here. But what's with these two coming uninvited? And seeing that hostile look in their eyes when I asked, they're obviously not here because of the medicine sect or Bai Chong Feng. We are here to find someone. Now it looks like that's not needed anymore. Ran-Yi makes a faint chuckle before eventually landing his line of sight on the reddish woman with those morning eyes. Lassie, how could you quietly run over to the Misty Fairy house without so much as talking to us first? Do you not take us as your Shifus or something? Shifus? There was silence in the room as they thought on the idea. Chief Wu Wei didn't fare so well either, making a face of solid brick because his brain's too busy working. The status of these two in the Holy Land is undoubtedly very high, but I must still consider this on whether or not the Lord of the Holy Land would begin a war for their sake. After all, a three-way war between the three major powers are no laughing joke. Just when the person was going over several possibilities and scenarios, Qiu Shu Rong decides to speak up. "Oh, my precious disciple, how can you be so impulsive? Do you think I don't know what sort of makeup these from the Misty Fairy house have? Even before coming, the Lord specifically told me that I mustn't let you be wronged by these people. If they do, you are to go back immediately and tell him so he can come in person to pay them back." Warmed to the heart over the kindness, Bai Yan knows full well how much care she has received during the years she stayed in the Holy Land. "Don't worry, I won't be wronged." Smiley face at her two precious teachers. "Let me do some introductions first. These two over here are my two new Shifus from the Misty Fairy house. They've been very good to me while I've been here." Ran-Yi and Qiu Shu Rong both pricked their brows at the notion. "It looks like our Shifu team has grown by another two members. Not bad at all. Combined together, we should be enough to get ahead of this by Changfeng and stick it to him." Huffing a grunt at being pointed out, the old grandpa cocks his chin high with his hands crossed against his chest. "Even if you add more people, it won't make a difference. I am Yan Yan's grandfather, her closest relative, so you got nothing on me. That's right, no one can match my status." Excessively twitching the corner of his mouth, Elder Zhongnan older had to make a few awkward coughs to get his composure back. "Since all of us are her Shifus, then there's no need to be so polite. But as far as I know, none of you should be able to produce an 8th grade alchemist as a student, or am I missing something?" 8th grade alchemist? Dismayed by this knowledge, the two new arrivals from the Holy Land were gawking at each other before finally landing on the girl's figure. This lassie is now an 8th grade alchemist? But before the both of them could ask for more details, an ear-piercing cry of sobbing tears had cut them off. "Wife, I know I am wrong. Please don't leave me." Clinging on to Jun Tianyu's leg and sobbing like a total loser was none other than Chief Wu Wei. It's obvious the last ounce of pride and prestige he held had been destroyed. Now he desperately wanted to salvage his marriage before he loses it all. The furious by Changfeng 12. "I'm not letting go. Unless you promise not to leave me, I won't ever let go." "Pride? What's that? If I let my pride get the better of me now, then I'm gonna lose my wife and child. That stuff can move aside." The chief still had enough sense left in him to know what's more important. Originally he did want to use forceful means to make Bai Changfeng keep his people from leaving, but the medicine sect and Holy Land's already about to team up on himself, meaning what chip does he have left to play? In times like these, being the weaker crab is the king's path. Against her own husband's quick change of attitude, downright weak, Jun Tianyu was extremely irked, and that could be seen in the beet red color of those cheeks. She's not only angry, but also greatly embarrassed at her man's lack of standard. "You scram." "I'm not scramming. If I scram, then you won't be coming back." Clinging even tighter onto his wife's leg now, the chief's appearance bordered on the line of humiliation. "I know I'm wrong now, wife. Please don't leave me. I won't force Yun Feng again, so you mustn't go. Otherwise." "Otherwise what?" Jun Tianyu mocks her own husband using that sarcastic tone. "Otherwise I will go to the medicine sect too and refuse to leave. The only way Bai Changfeng can get rid of me is to drive all of us out." That comment instantly leaves a series of black lines across the old grandpa's face. "My medicine sect doesn't welcome you. I don't care. If you dare take my wife and children away, then I'm going to loaf around at your home. You must also feed me well and take care of my living expenses." Before the man could even finish his ridiculous statement, Bai Changfeng had already heard enough and sent a kick over as protest. "Get out of here. It's not enough that he wants to loaf around my home? He also wants me to feed him well and take care of his living expenses? Dream on. Chief Wu Wei, making an exasperated face. The poor old grandpa sucks in a deep breath in order to gather the air for what he's about to say. I'll give you one last chance. If you can find my daughter, then I'll forgive you for the sake of my granddaughter. For Yun Feng, who's been staying quiet to one side, the man naturally lit up at the notion of his wife being alive. Father-in-law, is Ninger still alive? My wife is alive still. Due to the emotional excitement he felt at the possibility, the patient couldn't control his appearance at all and could be read by everyone on what he's intending to do. If Ninger is dead, then where did Yen Yen come from, you fool? Peeking over to the person who's now staring intently at his every move, Bai Chongfeng says the obvious. But I am not 100% sure on the matter either. If the worst comes to pass, then you people from the Misty Fairy House better prepare yourself. And you can forget about being my son-in-law. I won't take someone who indirectly caused my daughter's death. Regarding the threat and whatnot, Yun Feng could care less. To him, someone that's been lost for the past 20 years. He only has his wife in mind, and now he couldn't even bear to stand a life without her. She's alive. As he laughed and laughed at the wonderful news, tears slowly trickled down his cheeks as well. Ninger, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I am useless. I couldn't protect you and keep you safe. If not for my incompetence, then you wouldn't have suffered so much pain during my absence. Looking at the pitiful appearance of the younger man, Bai Chongfeng honestly couldn't bring himself to hate the person. He's very tied inside. One part of his mind felt happy that someone had such strong feelings for his daughter, the other for the misfortune he brought along with the relationship. If only this child isn't from the Misty Fairy House, how good would that be? Perhaps then Ninger would still be around and Yen Yen wouldn't have had to suffer so much during her childhood. Renyu and Xiao Shurong were both very confused by this sudden form of address. What is going on here? When did you become the father-in-law of the Misty Fairy House? A humph? Elder Zhongbei Younger coughs a few times to clear his throat. Things are complicated. Despite that, the younger brother of the two used the easiest form of words to describe and explain the events of earlier. This way, the two new arrivals from the Holy Land would get a clearer picture of the relationship they now all shared. Of course, the main topic mainly revolves around the lies produced by Muzhin and of how the old hag wanted to deceive everyone into harming Bai Yen. Outrageous! Xiao Shurong, third, puts on an exasperated face. My disciple's status within the Holy Land is one of a kind. Our Lord loves her and our princess trails behind her at all times. Even our young Lord had tried to abduct her on several occasions only to fail miserably. Oomph! Ren Yi, second, hurries to cut in with his voice. Yen Yan's father is still around, you idiot. The furious Bai Chongfeng, 13. Sure enough, the last tidbit about someone trying to kidnap his daughter had finally brought the man's attention back to reality. He may be mostly filled with the yearning moment where he and his wife reunites again, but that's still far into the future and not now. This mistake, my mistake. All embarrassed, Qiu Shurong, third, hurries to correct himself. No matter what, Yen Yan's identity within our Holy Land is extremely high. There's no reason for her to discard that to come to the Misty Fairy House. Muzhin had been listening in on every despite her dreadful condition. Due to the excessive blood loss and repeated injury, she's incapable of speaking or moving, only able to stare intently with her murky eyes like she's unable to accept fate. Yen Yen, you should hand this Muzhin to us in the Holy Land instead. The torture chambers inside the punishment hall is much more suited for the likes of her. No way! Bai Chongfeng angrily refuses. Yenner already promised to hand that wretched woman over to me for disposal. I won't let you rob me of my pleasure of getting payback. So what if I'm robbing you? It's not like it's the first time you robbed people from our Holy Land anyways. It's about time us brothers got some payback on you. I said no, so it's a no. You bunch from the Holy Land is too soft, totally incapable of properly making her regret for what she's done. The onlooking crowds were dead silent as they all watched the bickering nonsense from the three prestigious old seniors. It's one thing to compete between themselves for some geniuses. After all, that's expected for every power and faction out there. But now they're arguing over who gets custody of a prisoner? That's just ridiculous. A humph. Excuse me, but Mujin is a person of my misty fairy house. If there is any punishment to be made, I believe I should be the one who gets to decide. Chief Wu Wei decides to chime in after some thought. This would be a good opportunity to make up for my past mistake. Otherwise, I might get demoted even further than I already have in front of my family. Scram! Who do you think you are? I still haven't settled the debt with you yet, and you dare come shove your face in front of us? Heck! I'm seriously worried you might just let this woman go if we're not looking. Originally, the three bickering old fellas were still going at it until the annoying pest decides to cut in. And without deviating from expectation, they promptly unified to shut the chief down and glared daggers at the person. Against the complete lack of respect, Chief Wu Wei could only say he's absolutely steaming. I am still the leader of the Misty Fairy House, when I have to endure such indignation. Damn it. If not for my wife and children, I wouldn't even put up with you bastards. You all want to quarrel, then do so afterwards. I came to the Misty Fairy House for a seed from the Bloodvine plant. Bai Yen figured it's time she stepped in lest this drags on till midnight. Oh, how careless of me. Jun Tianyu pats her own forehead like a forgetful person. What are you still standing there for? Don't you see your granddaughter is asking for the Bloodvine? Hurry and go grab it before I get angry. Oh, yes, wife. Coming back to his senses, Chief Wu Wei made quick work of running inside to retrieve said item. Minutes later, he's returned with the precious box holding the seed inside. The elders of the Misty Fairy House had wanted to protest at the sight, but in the end, they couldn't bring themselves to speak up in light of those moving jaws. Here you go, Yenner. All flattering in his demeanor, the chief offers up the prize. Who said you can call her that? Bai Chong Feng snorts, all huffing and puffing. Qiu Shu Rong, third, also frowns over the form of address. You should be calling her Miss Bai Yen. As for Ren Yi, this usually calm elder from the Holy Land didn't openly speak out due to his character. But that disapproval gaze said it all. These old bastards are too much. The chief complains, feeling hurt and wanting to cry. The blood-vine seed that you wanted. In the end, the man decides to outright not address the girl. He knows that if he did call her Yenner again, then they would not let it settle. And since he's not willing to lower himself to the point of doing a formal greeting since he was the girl's grandfather as well, the best course of action would be to skip on the subject. Forgive me. Okay? 1. With the seed in hand, the only thing left now was for her to treat Bai Shachen of his condition. Yenner, what about this Mujin? How should we deal with her? Qiu Shu Rong shoots an angry glare at the ashen-looking woman who remained curled up on the floor. Brooding over the question, Bai Yen decides to stick with the original plan. I have promised to give her to my grandfather earlier. If you are bored, you can also go the medicine to play. It doesn't matter anyways. My grandfather is wealthy enough so you don't need to be polite or conservative. Bai Chong Feng's face literally contorted at that comment. Oh, the irony. How can this girl do this to me, her own grandfather? Oomph! Making a dry cough, Qiu Shu Rong turns to his brother after seeing how Bai Yen was already leading Tsing Yi and her 2 followers away. What should we do now, Ren Yi? Arching his brow at the dilemma, the second elder from the Holy Land merely gives a shrug. I guess we should wait for Yenner to come back before deciding. We still haven't confirmed Shachen's health yet, so how can we just leave? Health. Bai Chong Feng was still distressing over his own home's impending expense increase when he overheard that last bit. Unsure, he hurries to ask, what do you mean by Shachen's health? Did something happen to him? Don't you know? The whole reason Yenner came to the Misty Fairy House is to locate the Bloodvine seeds and to treat Shachen. Sighing, Ren Yi shakes his head in disappointment. And from what I can discern, one of the main reasons behind the child's injury is related to his own father. Though the Holy Land Elder didn't know the exact details or what happened, but based on the attitude and extreme anger Little Rice showed at the mention of Deedsong's name from before was enough to tell him enough. If I had known things would turn out this way, then I would have helped the young lord pursue Yenner back then. That way both mother and child wouldn't have been hurt. What? The old grandpa flies into a rage. Xiaqin's injury is related to Ditsong? What the heck is he doing as a father? How could he allow his own son to be in such a terrible state? I absolutely won't agree to him being beside my granddaughter's side again. Xiaqin? Hearing the name being repeatedly mentioned by these old fellas, Yun Feng eventually allowed the curious side of him to take charge. Who is this Xiaqin you guys keep bringing up? It's Bai Yan's son. Snap. Yun Feng could visibly see and hear his own vital cord breaking apart from the news. Quivering so slightly in the lip, he had trouble believing Qiu Shurong's third word. This is unfair. I was only gone for 20 years. How could my daughter already have a son? I'll find the bastard who sweet-talked my precious baby and beat him to a pulp. Senior Qiu, third. Understanding the younger man's woe, Qiu Shurong waves his hand. Regardless of what happens, we can talk about this after Yena returns. The gesture stopped any question he had wanted to make. Giving a bitter nod, Yun Feng knew that's the best solution. Okay, let's wait for my daughter's return before continuing this discussion. Outside the city's premise, Bai Yan didn't need to look far before the distinct features of her precious little baby came into view. Woo-woo. The troublemaker also showed great joy and hurried to jump into those arms. Son, where have you been these past couple of days? Tightly embracing the boy, she asks with a slight hint of worry and displeasure at being alone for so long. If mother finds out I was with Batty father, would she take me as a little traitor? The little fox hangs his head like a guilty boy. Just when the little guy was all tied inside over this, Bai Yan went ahead to bring out the prize she just earned. It's the seed, and she's very happy to be able to treat her baby boy. Forgive me. Okay? 2. She did not give Bai Xiaqin a chance to speak or explain. Tapping her feet as light as a feather, she dashes toward the nearest pile of risen earth in the distance. Chong Mountain. Standing as the highest Alp within the borders of the Misty Fairy House, it's said that there once lived a divine entity at the highest peak. As a result, the area has become famous among its locals and would attract a good number of adventurous youngsters to trek its rigorous terrains in hopes of meeting that supposed divine being. But in reality, none has truly ever reached the highest point, not even once. There are simply too many demonic beasts lurking in its environment. Unless one had the strength of a monarch rank, they could forget about even making an attempt, let alone climbing its dangerous cliffs and rocky paths. However, nothing lasts forever. At this moment atop of the Chong Mountain where fluffy white clouds shrouded its view, there stood a quaint-looking cabin that's currently being occupied by an almost fairy-like man. Silvery hair with a pristine white robe. There's not a trace of blemish on that handsome face which oozed a sense of age and sadness. Suddenly, the wind from behind began to blow, causing that hand holding the jade flute to react with a quiver. Have you found the blood vine? Standing there against the open window was Bai Yan with her brow faintly arched at being recognized despite the man having his back faced against herself. I've brought it, and I've come as you told me to after getting the plant. What method do you intend to use to heal my son? That day before she left with her son, Chewy God had told her what to do. First locate the blood vine or its seed, then come to the highest peak of the Chong Mountain in order to seek him out. Hand the seed to me. Finally coming around, the man remains indifferent in the eyes despite the shallow smile he made. Slightly hesitant at first, Bai Yan hands the box over in the end. The poor woman doesn't know why either, but she believes the strange individual who shared a strong similarity to Chu Yifeng would help herself despite all the mystery. And sure enough, the man promptly drew a small knife from his waist. Flicking the blade against the tip of that stretched finger, blood quickly trickled down that serene skin and dripped onto the seed. You? Taken aback by the suddenness of the move, Bai Yan slightly trembled inside at the length this person would go. She's not exactly sure what's happening, but based on her speculation, that droplet of blood was a portion of his spiritual essence, meaning once used, then it's gone forever. That's a big taboo for any cultivator because it's a heavy blow to one's strength and health. Without fault or deviation, the seed gradually began to sprout into a tiny red sapling. Why are you doing this for me? She felt all complicated inside. That's right, we're not related or acquainted. Why does he keep helping me? In response to the question, Chu-yi God only showed a glimmer of imperceptible pain from within his eyes. Why help you? Because I owe you. Maybe it's a fated coincidence. Smiling in his face, the man deliberately makes an excuse. When I first laid eyes upon you, I felt very close and just had the urge to help. Time continues to flow under this quiet awkwardness, and through the nourishment of the fairy like man's effort, mostly blood, the sapling has now grown big enough to begin flowering. It's a radiant plant, giving off a heart-stopping light from its existence. Shockingly enough, Bai Yen didn't feel comfortable gazing at the thing. Her instincts told her if she did so, the plant would suck her soul out and into that thing. The blood vine has been forcibly flowered by me. Now the boy only needs to consume it in order to restore his human form. Flicking his finger for the second time, the flower instantly turns into a ball of reddish hue before shooting into the little fox's mouth. The process wasn't without its hurdles, though. Curling into a ball, the poor kid made repeated moans and groans of someone in pain. Those eyes were covered in tears as he looked up helplessly at Bai Yen for help. Son! Aghast in her face, the anxious mother hurries to ask, how long will the pain continue? Forgive me. Okay? 3. Then before Bai Yen could get a proper answer, Bai Xiaqin's painful squirming had stopped. Eyes closed and curled into a ball. There now appears a glowing tattoo-like symbol across the kid's temple, which represented the blood vine inside his body. He's fine now. When he wakes up again, he'll have recovered, so you can let him rest in that bed over there. Gesturing to the other room in this cabin, Chu-yi God mildly puts the woman's anxious heart to rest with that statement. Relieved, the mother did exactly as told and carefully placed her son atop of the bed. Only then did she leave the cabin for the outside. You just now. Are you okay? Regardless of how or what she felt towards the stranger, Bai Yen should rightfully ask about the man's well-being after all he's done. Fumph. Coughing so slightly as if he's trying to muffle out his own discomfort, Chu-yi God turns around to show a spellbinding smile that's out of this world. I'm fine. You don't need to worry about me. Then, out of habit, the man went ahead to ruffle the woman's hair like he's always done so in the past. By the time he's come to his senses and realized what was done, those fingers were already as stiff as a rock. Thank you. Not noticing the oddity in the other side's movement, Bai Yen inhales deeply before giving the man a grateful hug. If it wasn't for you, then my son wouldn't have recovered so much, and I have a strong feeling like I've known you all along. Were you my older brother in a past life? Older brother? The man twitches so slightly at the last bit. Staring closely into the female's eye, his face showed a bittersweet smile like he's in some sort of pain. To think the sweet little girl who always followed behind myself would come around and say something like this one day. She should have been my wife, and she almost did if not for the mistake I did. Now what was done can never be undone, and we can never return to the old happy times we shared either. Maybe we were, the man sighs, patting her back in response to the hug. This is for the best. At least she wouldn't hate me if she continues to forget. Yen, what are you two doing? All of a sudden, a familiar voice of anger and jealousy interjects on their moment, causing the woman to stiffen over at the sound's signature. Overbearing, tyrannical, and mesmerizingly seductive, this was none other than the one and only demon lord, Di Tsang. As soon as Bai Yen swung around to meet that face, her inner anger exploded. Just because he left a wisp of power around to protect me during the critical moment doesn't mean I'm going to forgive what he did. Without extra word or inquiry into the state of things, Di Tsang unleashes his all and allows his power to manifest across the entire mountain peak. Under this might, even the air itself had begun to twist and deform. But that's not all. From within the rippled void of the eternal darkness, the great demon lord only needs a wave of his hand to summon out countless ominous blades of pure chaos before firing them off to the pristinely white man currently still hugging his wife. Thankfully, Chu-yi God wasn't a nobody either. In a flash of glorious radiance, his body disappears in the next second and allowed the destructive attack to skimmer through the air and into the earth. This had the indirect effect of cutting off a whole chunk of the peak, leaving an awkward-shaped mass of rock and dirt to topple down the cliffside and eventually creating a landslide from the momentum. Stop it! Seeing how these two are about to battle it out in front of herself, Bai Yan immediately lashes out and snapped, "If you two want to fight, then get lost. I won't tolerate any form of disturbance while my son is resting inside the cabin." The momentum of both males were quite monstrous and frightening to even the strongest masters of this world, but at her word and threat, it just suddenly disappears like someone choked the life out of them. "Forgive me, okay? For Yen Yen is my wife. The next time you touch her, I will chop off that hand." Showing a faint smirk in return, Chu-Yi God clearly had other opinions. "What she wants to do is her business, you can't stop her." "Yes, I can't stop her from doing what she wants, but I can strangle any bastard who tries to woo her. Come one and I'll strangle one. Come two and I'll strangle two. In this life she is destined to be my wife." Giving a warning glare to the other side that's also floating in the air, Di-Tsong then descends to his wife's side. In that moment, from what was an intense and oppressive aura was now a flattering and pleading face. "Yen Yen, I can give you an explanation for what happened that day." Dry and a little hoarse in his voice, the desperate man tightly grasps onto Bai Yan's hand. "I was framed, that wasn't me that day. It was state teacher's mess. He created a substitute of me and that person impersonated me. Countless emotions could be found fluctuating within the woman's face, but in the end she did let it go. Oh, what does "oh" mean? Yen Yen, don't you believe me? I believe. She's said it before. If he comes and give her an explanation, then she would believe him. But, then you forgive me? Elated inside, Di-Tsong's firm grasp strengthened a bit over the happiness. Take a guess. Tilting her head to one side, Bai Yan answers with an undiscernible smile that left him uncertain and nervous. "I..." Slightly aggrieved in the eyes. "Can I not guess? Then get out of my face." Huffing and puffing, Bai Yan had to take a heavy deep breath before she could suppress the urge to yell at him. Not willing to poke the hornet's nest, Di-Tsong decides to focus his attention back to the competition. Squinting his eyes into a narrow slit, a powerful sense of sourness could be felt in the air as he eyed Chu-Yi God. As always, if there's no room to vent his anger at the one he loves, then it's only to be expected for him to turn to the closest target at hand. "I won't go," Di-Tsong viciously states his term. "From here on forward, no matter where you go, whether it be the heavens or hell itself, I will accompany you to the ends of earth. You can't drive me away." Bai Yan promptly rolled her eyes at this big dummy. "I know, you idiot. Truth is, I already knew I might have misunderstood you that day when I realized you left a wisp of power to protect me. Back then she was blinded by anger, hence the reason why she couldn't reason out the flaws in the whole situation. If the matter didn't affect her so greatly, Bai Yan most definitely would have taken a different path from what she did. But Di-Tsong, do you know what is the most important when two different individuals are trying to be together?" Showing a blank face like most men would under such questioning, the great demon lord looked confused and clueless. "It's being frank and truthful. You've been keeping a lot of things from me, so why should I give you another chance? And why are you coming to see me when you aren't willing to be truthful?" Pursing her lips, Bai Yan gives one final fleeting glance before slamming the door in her husband's face. "Forgive me, okay? 5. Son." Cupping her mouth as the emotional tears trickled down those cheeks, Bai Yan couldn't believe what she was seeing. "Mother?" The soft voice instantly sent the poor woman racing over to the bedside. Pulling the little steam bun into her arms, she unleashes her pent-up anxiety into various forms of kisses and hugs. "It's so good you've recovered. It's so good." Perhaps it's due to the kid only just waking up from his nap. But as soon as the haziness left those eyes, the boy immediately showed clarity and realizes what's happening. "Don't cry, mother. I will always be a good child and never leave you." "I'm sorry, Xiachen. I'm so sorry." Her voice filled with regret and pain. "If I wasn't so incompetent, then he wouldn't have had to suffer such heavy injuries." The reasons why she didn't forgive Di-Tsong right away earlier most definitely had to do with the dishonesty and lack of trust between them both. but the other remains mostly because of their son's injury. Though not deliberate, the careless dote did have a hand in the cause. As punishment, she intends to make him suffer for a while. Mother, I have something to tell you? Biting his lower lip, Bai Xiachen grew hesitant in his demeanor. Batty father told me that the incident wasn't his intention. It's someone pretending to be him. Also, he only left the palace due to something and had Fire Plume come back to inform us. But he didn't expect the fool to screw it up. Bai Yan's expression gradually darkened following every step of those words. Yet Bai Xiachen remains oblivious to the fact and continued, Mother, do you want to meet with Batty father? Unbeknownst to the naive little kid, his actions have already sold himself out, and that could be seen in the woman's chilling smile, making it involuntarily shudder. Mother, your smile is very scary. Sweetie, tell mother this one. Creepilla chilly in her voice. During the past couple of days, were you with him the entire time? Shrinking his neck in, he silently nods. I was taken away by Batty father. Mother is angry, so scary. In order to protect himself, the little steam bun could only push the fault entirely onto his old man. So it's you who drew Ditsong here? Bai Yan's smiling face deepened with the use of a menacing tone. Blinking his eyes in confusion, the poor boy clearly didn't understand the last question. I didn't bring Batty father, but I did promise him I would ask for your permission, mother. I understand then. Slowly coming before the doorway, Bai Yan promptly slid the door open to reveal the eavesdropping man. Instantly, the kid gawked at the sight of Ditsong in his awkward position of leaning forward like a thieving spy. Why is Batty father here? Ditsong, you are quite skillful, you know? To think you would trick your own son into leading you to me and could even make him speak kindly on your behalf. Moody in her appearance, Bai Yan's smile grew very dangerous. Towards this, the demon lord himself only felt a creepy chill running through his robe and under his skin. So bad that he actually shivered for a bit. Something that shouldn't be possible. Yen, let me explain. In his urgency, Ditsong makes a grab for the woman's arm. Let go. She snaps upon contact. I'm not letting go. If I let go, then I won't be able to find you again. Turning red in his eyes, the man didn't care anymore and pushed forward to allow his size advantage to take hold. Pressing his lips against hers, he begins to vent the frustration and longing he's held thus far onto his wife. Forgive me. Okay? 6. Based on what excuse could he stop them from leaving? Heck, what right does he even have to say he could? So, in his desperation, Ditsong did what he knew best and used action to speak for itself. Scram! Irritated, Bai Yan bites down at that unwanted lip, causing it to bleed and the blood to fill her taste bud with strong flavor of iron. Even so, aside from the initial pain and diluting of his eyes over the shock, he continued to hold her tight like a greedy pig that he was at the moment. Don't force me. In her rage, Bai Yan resorts to using force and slams hard at the man's chest. In an instant, the man staggers backward as a trickle of blood seeped from the corner of his mouth. Ditsong! Exclaiming with great fright, Bai Yan was both annoyed and worried at her husband's pale complexion. Why did you not dodge? If letting you punch me can quell your anger, then I'll gladly take it. Even if you get a knife to stab me a few times, I still won't dodge. Taking the opportunity to grasp onto that dainty hand, the man's lip had curved into a dumb grin. Forgive me, okay? She didn't reply right away, only lowering her head like she's thinking of something as her heart pounded away from the indecision. Yen, I really know I am wrong. Tightening his grasp onto hers to not give any room for wiggling. You said you wanted the celestial realm before, so I was busy mustering the forces on them. The reason I didn't tell you is because I wanted it to be a surprise. I honestly didn't expect you to misunderstand that. Please, I won't keep anything from you from here on afterwards. Jerking up in surprise, the woman's voice sounded shaky. I was only joking back then. How could you take my careless remark as real? A droplet of sweat came pouring down the idiot's side, but I took it seriously. Yen, you should know by now I would take anything you say with absolute seriousness. All firm in his voice, He locked eyes with his love to show that conviction, pursing her lip against that intense stare. Since you have already begun your attack on the celestial realm, fine. I will lower myself into accepting the difficult task of ruling that world. However, I don't need you to solely carry on that burden using only your strength. I prefer to do it myself. Although Bai Yan did not say it outright, the man still got enough from those words to understand what she meant. She's going to join the battle and fight alongside him. Yen, does that mean you will forgive me? Delighted in his face, Di Tsong's focus remains forever locked on his wife's contour. Against the excited voice, Bai Yan immediately got dubious and started to suspect something because of how quickly Di Tsong recovered from her attack. Aren't you injured still by my punch? How come? Going stiff like a rock. It's obvious he's been caught. Hurrying to come up with a proper excuse after seeing the darkening expression of his wife. Yen, everything I said is true, so can you forgive me? I won't move or dodge if you want to stab me with a knife. And, because you had just broken into the monarch rank not long ago, I'm impervious to your attacks. Steaming in her darkish red face, Bai Yan now got the gist of it. So is he looking down at me because my powers are lower than his? If I didn't hurt you, then why are you pretending? And you also spit blood out as well. He admits faking his injury was bad, but Di Tsong was innocent on the second charge that's being pressed against himself. If you didn't bite me so hard, then I wouldn't have bled. Don't mess with the father-in-law one. Seeing her man's guilty expression, Bai Yan knew right away she's been deceived. Showing a rippling smile, the woman appeared ominous and dangerous. How dare you lie to me? Please listen to me. Let me explain. In his urgency, Di Tsong wanted to defend himself only to be stopped by that blocking hand and freaky chuckle. Son, we're leaving. Your great-grandfather is still waiting for us. Bai Xiachen had only finished taking his first step out of the cabin when he heard this order. As such, he could do nothing but cast a helpless glance towards his old man before cleverly making his way down the mountain peak with his mother. Originally, Di Tsong had wanted to catch up to his family right away, but as soon as he did so moving forward, he stopped upon remembering something crucial. Turning around, his proud face dons a smug grin at the competition. Next time when it comes time for my daughter's first-month celebration, I will definitely invite you to attend. Despite the provocative statement akin to a war declaration, Chu Yi God did not show any changes to his perennially serene face. He's the wind. He's the sun. Nothing in this world seems to matter to this divine entity. Hopefully, you would really have that day. Huffing a grunt at that, the demon lord didn't want to drag the conversation out and disappeared in a flash of purplish light, thus leaving behind only the pained-looking divine being in the background. Lord. Standing behind the man now was a woman wearing a greenish-black dress. Respectful in her voice, this new arrival kneels down in respect. I've been ordered to inquire on when your lordship would return to the celestial realm. Cold and indifferent, Chu Yi God peers down at this messenger with the look of someone devoid of emotions. It looks like my words are deaf to you people. Turning ghastly white over that sentence, the woman hurries to lower her head into a prostrating position. Your servant here would never dare. Don't dare? His voice sounding distant and untouchable. If you don't dare, then why are you still calling me Lord? Years ago I have already laid down my wish. There will be no celestial Lord again. Yet you people continue to call me Lord despite orders to only call me Sir. If that's not daring, then what is? Quivering there like a frightened hamster, the woman had 1,000 unwilling words to say. However, her lips did not move, only shutting themselves into a tight, thin line. Out of my sight! The man's complexion darkened. Without my order from this point forward, none of you are allowed to come to this world. Yes, sir. Clenching her teeth, the woman wearing the greenish-black dress didn't understand this or why that woman could still possess such love from the Lord after 1,000 years. At this time back over in the main residence, Bai Chongfeng and the others are still waiting for Bai Yan's return. Then, just as they were discussing on how to locate Bai Ning using what little information they possessed, the long-awaited woman and her son has arrived. For Jun Tianyu, wife, who caught sight of her great-grandchild first, This loving grandmother took the initiative to ask, "Is this child Xiachen?" "Yes, grandmother." All smiles at the inquiry. Bai Yan rubs the kid's head and urged him forward. "Go on, call great-grandmother. Don't mess with the father-in-law, too." "Great-grandmother, you are so young. I almost thought you were my grandmother instead." Blooming into a huge smile, Jun Tianyu became overjoyed at the flattery. "Your tongue is so sweet. Great-grandmother here heard you're hurt? Don't worry. I won't let anyone harm you again while you're here in the Misty Fairy House. Especially from your father." Blinking his cute blue eyes, Bai Xiachen felt rather sorry for his old man. Batty father didn't even meet great-grandmother yet and he's already offended her? Looks like he won't be able to get in through the door at this rate. A humph. Chief Wu Wei makes several coughs, hoping his wife would introduce himself. Unfortunately for the desperate grandfather, Jun Tianyu could care less what her husband wanted at the moment, focusing on the kid entirely. "This one here isn't any good either. You mustn't pay attention to him lest he sells you away." Nodding in befuddled confusion. "Okay, great-grandmother." In that second, the chief could only be called distraught. "I know I'm wrong already. Why do they all still think I'm going to give my own loved ones to that whatever goddess?" Yenner. Although Yun Feng, father, held mixed feelings about the one who abducted his daughter, mostly anger, he's finding this cuddly little thing quite likable despite not knowing the exact reason. Therefore, his demeanor became very awkward after turning to Bai Yan for help due to being afraid of harming the kid. "Son, come here." Beckoning her boy over with a wave, the mother was all smiles as she spoke. "This here is your grandfather, my father. Hurry and go to his side and greet him." "Grandpa!" Sparkling in his eyes like the starry stars of the night sky. The kid didn't have as much worry as the adults and completely went in for a full armed hug around the man's waist. "Grandpa, I finally have a grandfather. Now no one will try to sell me again using that title." Startled and confused by the strange form of language, the man hurries to ask, "What's going on? Why would anyone try to sell you?" After mother's adopted mother passed away, the adopted father repeatedly picked on her. Not only did they try to sell mother to some dirty old man, they also tried to use the claim as our elders to try to sell me to the flower brothel. Thankfully, the establishment belonged to mother, so the bad people couldn't succeed in their schemes. It's unsure if it's intentional or unintentional, but when explaining the background story, Bai Xiachen would on occasion sneak a peek at the chief who was listening in on everything. But who was the boy trying to kid? He's definitely doing it on purpose. That's right, in Bai Xiachen's view, it's all these people from the Misty Fairy House who caused everything as the source. Grandmother, Bai Ning, wouldn't be missing. Bai Yan wouldn't have had to endure all those years of suffering at the adopted family's home. Nor would his grandfather here lose his sanity for decades. So, as the good son that he was, it's only normal for the child to get some payback now that the occasion has arrived. Issue was, he immediately regretted the plan after seeing the horrified expression on his grandfather's face. Oh crap. Grandpa is innocent, he knew nothing and even lost his mind for decades. What to do? I messed up. Wu Wei. Jun Tianyu directly points her accusing finger at her own husband. This is all your fault. If you hadn't been so cowardly and listened to me, then none of those things would have happened. So what if that goddess is powerful? The fact that she can only send her clone over here means she's unable to come to our world. But you. Don't mess with the father-in-law. 3. Absolutely livid in her eyes now, the madam lashes out without a care for anyone. I'm warning you this now. If you try again to shatter our family because of those old bastards, then I'm going to divorce you. Chief Wu Wei could be quite stubborn at times, but even he knows there's no room for wiggle at this stage. Sighing helplessly, I won't make that mistake again, wife. Please calm down. You better not. Just thinking about the grievances her own grandchild and great-grandson had to endure was enough to send Jun Tianyu clawing at her own soul in frustration. They're one of the most prestigious families in this world. Yet her own descendants are being picked on and even almost sold to a brothel. There's no way this madam could let things slide if not for the fact that the ones responsible had all been dealt with already. It was then at this moment a familiar presence had caught Bai Yan's senses. Arching her brow, The woman had wanted to step to one side in order to avoid the impending grab, only to miserably and fall right into the man's arm. Yen, are you still angry? Like usual. His tone sounded overbearing yet soft and tender. Let go. Annoyed in her face. If you don't let go, then I will never forgive you. Perhaps it's the guilt plaguing his heart. But Song didn't use forceful means and obediently loosened his grip. Yener, this is Feng, father. Slightly wrinkles his temple as he carefully examined this newly arrived individual who's already getting all intimate with his daughter. He had to admit, though, Song was the most attractive male he's ever met in his life. Even the word peerless could not be used to describe that contour. Just that. There's a very dangerous feeling coming out of that presence. Like a demon straight out of hell. Someone I don't want to see. Pulling at her son's hand, Bai Yen forces a smile despite her annoyance. Father, me and Xiachen will go rest first. We're tired after moving around so much today. Can you keep him away from us? I don't want to see him. That's what you get for deceiving me. She huffs inwardly, still very much pissed at the deception. Meanwhile, on the other end, Song was just about to make a move at the man who's supposed to block himself from tagging along. However, the way his wife addressed man had instantly deflated his momentum in the next and changed it into the type only found between interfamily relationships. Father-in-law, I am Yan's husband, Xiachen's father. Showing the most stupid grin, Song only wants to please like a dog wagging his tail. Feng didn't get all warm and friendly though at the nice picture. Picking up the nearest broom, the recently healed patient didn't think twice and started whacking down the instrument at the great demon lord. And due to the suddenness of the attack, plus who it's coming from, Song actually just stood there and took it. Of course, dodging a simple stick with straws at the end was simple, but that's his father-in-law. So, the attack landed and made a series of almost comedic smacks. Father-in-law, is there some kind of misunderstanding between us? Misunderstanding? Feng snickered a sneered at that silly question. Oh, there is no misunderstanding at all. The fact that my daughter is unwilling to see you says it all. What's more, if it weren't for you, then would my grandson be hurt? And don't call me father-in-law. I don't have a son. Making a bittersweet smile, Song could not refute any of those claims and oddly found refuge in the fact that he's not being directly called out as the one who hurt his own child. Only the main cause in the whole case. For the others who knew of this great demon lord's identity and the terrible power he wields, aka the elders of the Holy Land and by Changfeng, these people were literally gawking their eyes out at the audacity portrayed by the crazy man with the broom. Don't mess with the father-in-law, for Qiu Shurong, third, hurries to wipe the cold sweat from his own forehead. He still hasn't forgotten the day he and his brothers joined forces to fight this demon lord. And that was under the circumstance that the man's holding back. Father-in-law, I won't make excuses. The fault is mine because I didn't remove all of the negative factors and produced a bunch of stupid subordinates. That's right, if it wasn't for Fire Plume being so stupid and being deceived, would any of this have happened? When we return to the demon realm, I will definitely let Yen dispose of that fool. Song, what the hell is this all about? Bai Changfeng wrinkles his brow. If the truth is as Qiu Shurong and them says that Song harmed Xiachen, then there's no way Yener would let things be. She would have fought him to the end right then and there instead of having someone block him. There must be some kind of misunderstanding between them. Halting his broom sweeping action, Feng shows a frown after hearing that. Out of consideration for Lord Bai's sake, I will give you one chance to explain. It wasn't easy for this father to regain his daughter. Of course he would treat Bai Yen as his most cherished treasure. Pursing those bloodishly red lips, Song went into great detail for the whole story without reservation. Of course, the little fact about him being from the demon realm has been omitted, otherwise he'd be shooed out of the place in the next second. Where's that slut Qing Shui now? Jun Tianyu, wife, demands. Due to how insanely angry and annoyed this madam was, she's been trembling all over for a while now. If I find out where that slut is, then I will tear her to pieces. It's bad enough that she had someone impersonate my granddaughter's husband. She also had someone hunt them down and harmed Xiachen. Such an abominable woman deserves nothing less than pure torture and death. She is already dead, but I did keep her soul behind so that Yen Yen can dispose of her once we go home. Father-in-law, please give me another chance. I won't let my wife be harmed again. Slightly improved in his expression, the promise was candy to Yunfeng's ear. And how do you guarantee that? Next time, I will remove any woman at the budding stage before they could make a move. That's regardless of them actually committing a fault because I won't give them the opportunity. The same kind pain was something Song refuses to experience a second time, and he most certainly doesn't want to lose her. Therefore, even if it means he would have to topple the world and carry a bad name for himself, he won't regret it. Humph! Yunfeng coldly huffs a grunt. I hope you can do what you say. Also, my daughter doesn't want to see you, so you're not to disturb her during these coming days. An excited light flicker within Song's eye. Father-in-law, are you agreeing to let me stay? I didn't agree. But if you're staying then I can't stop you. Dumping the broomstick down, Yunfeng waltzed away and left only those words behind. For the madam though, the woman was rather fond of her new grandson-in-law. In her view, the pair looked gorgeous together and was a match made in heaven. Your father-in-law is only keeping a tough face, plus you let Xiachen get hurt before so he's still grumpy about that. After a period he will lose the attitude so don't worry. Casting a glance to the servants nearby, the madam was smiling right up to her eyes. Come on, hurry and go prepare a room for Sertsong here. I think the one next to Yeners is quite good. We can temporarily keep him there. Don't mess with the father-in-law. 5. Are you sure it's okay to help Song like this? Wouldn't Yenner be unhappy if she finds out? Chief Wu Wei murmurs this complaint to himself, not wanting others to hear him. Of course, only Jun Tian Yu would have the courage to help her grandson-in-law, mainly due to the fact that Bai Yen wouldn't really be angry with this madam. For the husband, though, he most definitely wouldn't dare. The man's lost all form of respect and status among his family members at this point. Chief, Elder Zhongnan older, seems to have thought of something. Yenner asked me and my brother for a favor before. She wanted to locate a little girl. Perhaps if you can help her solve this issue, then she might just forgive your faults. Going bright in the face, the chief swings around with hope in those eyes. Really? Hurry and give me a portrait. I will send everyone out to search. Exhaling a short breath, Zhongnan was glad his suggestion was accepted. Truth was he already had some clues after days of investigating. Now this would the perfect opportunity to leave a good impression on the main house. Back over at Bai Yan's end, she and her son had been led into the prepared room by the maid. In there, the first thing the woman did was to sit down at the desk where the writing tools were arranged and listed out a series of herbs she wanted. Take this note to my father and have him bring me the items I listed. With the support of the Misty Fairy House at her back, it's only normal for Bai Yen to use this card to her advantage in gathering the necessary ingredients. Xingyi's, Dragoness. Injury has been delayed for far too long, so postponing the treatment would warrant nothing but bad outcomes. Yes, milady. Giving a respectful bow of her head, the maid promptly left for the outside. Mother. Alone now, Bai Xiachen didn't waste any time to climb atop of those seated legs to take his rightful place among the most precious woman in his life. I want to sleep with mother today. That smile carrying only joy and a naive innocence found among the young. Winding his arms around that chest, the kid throws his entire head into those bountiful mounds and snuggled into them without a care for the world. Mother is the best, so warm and soft. I never want to leave mother's side ever again. Son, I'm afraid we'll have to stay for a while longer in order to find Dragoni. Only then can we leave. Caressing her boy's head, who's still firmly tugged against her own, she calmly explains her plan. Giving a clever nod. I will listen to mother, but are we really going to ignore Batty Father while we're here? She went stiff at that last bit. Not answering right away, she pulls him up to face level to meet her son's eye. Aren't you angry that he took advantage of you? The kid shakes his head. No, I'm not anymore, though I'm still sad at being used. Batty Father loves mother, so I can ignore his faults. And, lowering his head like he's deciding how to properly explain, Batty father is injured because of me. Twitching so slightly. Bai Yan's face definitely got a little white there. What happened? How could he have gotten hurt? Who has the power to harm your father? No, it's that someone injured Batty father. Rather, he injured himself because he was helping me. He said that mysterious force inside my body was trying to take over, so he used his powers to forcibly stop it. As a consequence, he's now heavily injured. Showing a teary face, Bai Xiachen tugs at his mother's sleeve like he's pleading for his old man. I hated Batty father before, mainly because he bullied you and kept leaving me behind. But after seeing how far he's willing to go for mother, I can tolerate the other bad things he's done. Can you forgive me as well? Almost laughing at her son's demeanor, Bai Yan places him down to her own lap and flickered a finger at that temple. You shouldn't worry about the matters between me and your father. You have your own troubles to worry about, don't you? Don't mess with the father-in-law. 6. Mother, you are my most important person. If Batty father bullies you in the future, then I will definitely hurt him. Brandishing claws that was his tiny little hand, Bai Xiachen attempts to make a fearsome display of ferociousness only to fail miserably. Chuckling at the boy's downright adorable appearance, Bai Yan hurries to pull him in for a tight embrace and a peck on the cheek. To this mother, she now knows there are far too many shortcomings on her end and must remedy lest she allow the same danger to befall themselves again. So what if I can claim the throne in this mortal world? There's still the celestial realm and the demon realm. Son, I won't let anyone hurt you again. Not ever. Tightening her grip at the last word, Bai Yan's murmuring voice was firm and convicted. But as usual, the kid did the darnest thing and countered with a vow of his own. I'm a man, so I shouldn't be protected by mother. I will protect you instead. Hands up and waving around. This act would bring delight to any adult who saw it. Then just when Bai Yan wanted to give another series of smooches on her own boy caused by the funny display, the maid from earlier had barged in from out of the blue, slightly frowning at the interruption. What happened? Miss, this is not good. The maid borders on the line of tears in her frantic appearance. Mujin had secretly informed the goddess of your existence prior to coming to make trouble, so now that person is demanding your presence at the main altar. Please, milady, you must hide while the chief stalls for time. Even though Jun Tian you mentioned before that this goddess couldn't bring her true body into this world, being safe than sorry was still the better option. Goddess? Caressing her chin, Bai Yan definitely had other plans in mind than to flee. Are you talking about the one who has an eye for my father? She's the culprit who caused my parents' separation. Am I correct? Growing urgent. Miss, the chief said you mustn't go at all cost. Not only is that goddess extremely powerful, I also heard she's the love interest of the demon lord and celestial lord. Even if her real body can't come to our world, there will be plenty willing to do the deed in her stead. For those in the secular world, it's impossible to believe the existence of divine beings, let alone believe in the existence of the demon realm. However, since the Misty Fairy House was one of the 3 major powers out there, it's not strange for them to know of other realms. At the same time, Di Tsong had been eavesdropping on the entire conversation from the outside when he overheard this accursed statement. Originally, he had only wanted to come find his wife to make another attempt at pleading his case, but now he's completely dark in the face after hearing the bit about him having another lover, or more correctly, an affair. What if Yen Yen gets the wrong idea and believes this nonsense? Getting urgently anxious, he couldn't stand back anymore and rushed inside to pull that woman into his arms. Using a low and raspy voice, "You must believe in me. I don't know who that goddess is. In this life, I only have you in my heart and no other woman." First glancing down at that possessive hand, then up to the man's desperate face, she smiled. "I know. She knows?" Only then did the tenseness in the heart subside from the demon lord's body. However, that soon changed to an unbridled fury. Damn it. I just solved the snake girl fiasco and now comes another who wants to frame me? The flaunting goddess won. Standing on the altar, the egotistic goddess sweeps her gaze across the yard only to land solely on the 2 individuals who refuses to kneel. What is the meaning of this Chief Wu Wei? Why are you and your wife not kneeling in my presence? She says this with a frosty tone. Slightly uncomfortable, the chief had out of habit wanted to explain themselves only to remember his wife's gradually darkening face. Immediately, he puts on a strong front. Goddess, what is the reasoning for your visit? Humph! Snorting at the question. You should know better than anyone on why I'm here. Back then you clearly told me Yunfeng is unable to leave with me because he's seriously ill. To think you people would have the audacity to deceive me and even allowed my man to breed with another woman and produced a bastard child? Jun Tianyu's gaze promptly narrowed into a slit. Yunfeng and Bai Ning's relationship is with my consent, and Yenner is also my Misty Fairy House's genuine young lady. Which of this is wrong and an affair? Or is it because you say so that it is? Bai Ning? The goddess slightly frowns. Why does the name sound so familiar? But since the deceitful maid couldn't think of where she's heard of this, she figured it's of no importance. Sneering, her voice got all snobby like an entitled bitch. I am talking to the Misty Fairy House's chief. When did the likes of you get to speak? Chief Wu Wei, you should really discipline your own woman. Such arrogance will only mean death in the celestial realm. The man's expression greatly changed. First it was pink, then green until it became a bluish red. He may be at times stubborn, but he would never allow anyone to insult his wife. That's a taboo he won't let anyone cross. No matter how arrogant my wife is, she can't be any more arrogant than you. Instead of staying in the celestial realm like you should, you decide to come to the lower realms and make trouble for us mortals? I'm telling you now, Yenner is my granddaughter and Bai Ning is my daughter-in-law. This time none of us will bow down to you. The madam was honestly surprised by her husband's courage to defend the family. After all, this man did cower for so many years and hadn't shown much of a spine lately. Outrageous! The maid goddess made it sound like they committed a heinous crime or something in the way she screamed. Chief Wu Wei, the only reason you all are so committed to your cultivations is in hope of one day ascending to the celestial realm, are you not? Now that you've offended me, I can have thousands of ways to keep you all here in the human world. The man grew slightly white at the threat, but he understands that the only way to shelter his son was to give up the path to godhood. That's right, even if he loses the path to the celestial realm, he won't regret his decision today and commit the same mistake years back. Chief! The elders who heard this, on the other hand, didn't share the same conviction. Many were starting to sway in their demeanor, and one was openly speaking up in objection. This goddess is a highly influential individual in the upper realm. If we offend her, then we might offend the demon lord and celestial lord as well. You must rethink your decision. Only then did the mood lighten up a bit in the maid goddess's face. Curling those lips into a smirk, she eyes the elder with an appreciative look. It looks like not all in this Misty Fairy House is as foolish and stupid as this man and wife. I'm a sensible person, so my request isn't high. So long as you get me my Yunfeng now and kill that slut called Bai Yen, then I will give you all a chance to pledge loyalty to me. Cocking her chin proudly like a flaunting peacock, this woman who was nothing more than a maid in the celestial realm made it sound like it's their great honor to serve. The flaunting goddess, too. In her raging fit, Jun Tianyu directly points that accusing finger in the direction of the goddess's face. Due to this, none were able to react in time to stop her or say anything to deflate the situation for that matter. Are you crazy? The maid goddess stammers this out like a person choking on a frog. Yes, this woman must be crazy. Otherwise, why would she dare to use such harsh tones towards me? Wife! Exclaiming in great fright, Chief Wu Wei hurries to grab the madam's shoulder in order to stop her from doing anything rash. Calm down first. Believe in me. I won't let anyone hurt our son again. Move! Pushing away that hand in a fit, the madam had fire and madness in her eyes and voice. She's right. I am crazy, and it's you all who drove me into this. Wu Wei, if you still care for us as a family, then you will tell this woman off right this instant. I will never let her harm my children again. It was not easy for this madam to calm down her anxious heart earlier. Now to be provoked again due to those impetuous words of someone wishing harm. It's only normal for her to lose all level of restraint. No one can force my son or hurt my granddaughter anymore. I won't let the tragedy from back then repeat itself. All bitter in his face, Chief Wu Wei knew what must be done. I have decided. There will be no harm coming to my granddaughter, nor will anyone force my son into anything. Goddess, you can leave now. Chief, butting in from the crowd was a green-robed elder. Do you know what your decision means? Are you going to abandon the Misty Fairy House and all of us? The old man's word did not provoke a reaction from the chief himself. Rather, it's Jun Tianyu who snapped a searing glare in return. Couldn't be helped. She remembers it clearly still. Years ago, it was Mujin and this blasted old fart who made the biggest commotion about giving her son away to this goddess. New and old hatred combined. It's time for some deadly payback. Pushing her husband aside, she pounced at the target. I am going to kill you today. Whoever wants to tear my family apart again will face my ire. Frenzy in those eyes, the madam threw punches and kicks at every turn that she could. To be clear, this was no longer a human being. It's a mad beast cornered and desperate to save her own children. For the other elders present, they're still busy taking in the shock of this picture. As a result, none were able to move in to stop the assault. Ho-ho, Fei Feiyang, Green Robe Elder. Yenner is not only the young lady of our Misty Fairy House. She's also the granddaughter of Lord Bai from the medicine sect. And what do you know? She's also the disciple of the 3 senior elders of the Holy Land. Do you still think you can do as you please with her? Seriously, you think too highly of yourself. Elder Zhongnan snickers with contempt at his peer. Poof! Blurting out a mouthful of blood after receiving another final punch to his chest. The old man in green makes a resentful look over to the one mocking himself. So what if her background is strong? Can she be compared to the goddess here? Don't forget, the goddess isn't only a person from the celestial realm. She's also someone with the backing of the Demon Lord and Celestial Lord. Even if you don't care about yourself, Zhongnan, you should at least care about the Misty Fairy House and all those who live here. That's right, I'm only doing this for the sake of everyone else. If there's any fault, then it's these idiotic fools. Tianyu, seeing his wife's about to take a second swing at the old man again, Chief Wu Wei decides it's time he stepped in, showing an obvious frown. Fei Feiyang, you can forget about interfering with my decision anymore. My Misty Fairy House can no longer accommodate you. So, from this point forward, you are no longer a member here. The flaunting goddess 3. Chief Yu, that's enough. Just when Fei Feiyang wanted to question the man again, a loud, indiscreet voice cuts in. You leaving the Misty Fairy House is not a problem. I will give you a chance to enter the celestial realm. Originally, the beaten old man was looking grim on the face over what's happening to himself. But at this sudden turn of events, he's now brimming with excitement. As they all know it, the only way to advance into the higher realms was to cultivate one's own power until they reached godhood, the other being granted permission by some major faction up there. For the first method, making a breakthrough to that level hasn't been done in over 1,000 years here according to known documents. It's also the main reason why Chief Wu Wei would be so adamant about offending this fake goddess. The man wanted to go through a backchannel and reach a new height. For a time there, aside from the husband and wife, plus the Zhong brothers, everyone else were showing looks of envy at Fei Feiyang. If they had known by sticking to the goddess's side would earn them a path to the celestial realm, then they would rather abandon their own status and pursue the same path. Goddess, I have something to report. Ignoring the murderous gaze coming from the madam, Fei Feiyang cheerfully announces. You may not know this yet, but Yun Feng have already been cured prior to your arrival. It was the chief who stopped us from informing you. In addition, he had secretly sent someone to inform that Bai Yen about your arrival. He wants his granddaughter to flee, so you must act quick. The maid goddess turned dark upon this revelation. Curse these people. How dare they keep such important secrets from me? Also, that Bai Yen has a son. The boy's exceptionally adorable and cute. I'm sure once he's all grown up, he would be one of a kind in terms of handsomeness. Oh, arching her brow. In that case, I will take in that wild child's son as well. Though I'm not fond of a mere child, but I'm willing to wait a decade or two for him to grow up. After all, everything in this Misty Fairy House belongs to me, right down to the grass and roots. This includes the people. That's right, since that child is a member of this place, then they're all mine by right. They would never dare to defy my orders. Now Jun Tianyu's expression had gone from ugly to downright seething. The only factor holding this madam back was the fortunate knowledge of her own granddaughter and great-grandson, having already left thanks to their message. However, that momentary relief soon changed to nervous mayhem at the sight of the three familiar figures slowly strolling over from afar. Bai Yen had on her iconic rosy red dress, matched that with her amazing contour. It's a true wonder how nature could be so unfair. Then there's the boy she's holding hands with. Cuddly and cute. No one looking at this child could say he's not lovable. Heck, it's difficult for most not to just run over there and give him a hearty hug. Now that leaves only the third person, Ditsong. Red in his lips, that seductive face should have been the main draw for the goddess here. Yet it wasn't because she's focused on someone else. The flaunting goddess. For Bai Ning? Bai Yen? Now this fake finally understood where the name came from and why it's so familiar. No way. Bai Ning is not a person of this world, nor can she possibly have a connection with the Misty Fairy House. All this is just a coincidence. It must be. Perhaps it's the comforting words she kept muttering to herself. But that original pale complexion had returned to normal. Inhaling deeply, the goddess gazes down at the coming trio. So you are Bai Yen, Yunfeng's daughter? Not caring to answer, Bai Yen directly bypasses everyone and came before her own grandmother. Smiling, "Grandma, are you all right?" All tied inside, Jun Tian, you didn't know whether to be happy or angry at the girl's presence. You should not have come. Those who need to come will eventually come anyways. Swinging around with an undiscernible smile. So it's you who caused my parents to separate and my mother's disappearance? Huffing at the accusation. Me fancying Yun Feng is his fortune. If he's unwilling to accept my goodwill, then it's his fault, so don't blame me. Isn't that right, Fei Feiyong? For the traitorous old man, anything this fake goddess says now would be right, even if to the sane human the argument was ridiculous and unjust. Your Grace's word is right. The fact that the young lord can be fancied by you is his honor. Turning himself to face the one who got himself expelled from the Misty Fairy House, there's no warmth in this old man's face. Miss Bai, I'm afraid you still don't know about the identity of the goddess, am I right? Pricking her brow at that, Bai Yen was rather amused and wanted to toy with this old fella. There's no harm done. I heard she's the love interest of the Demon Lord and Celestial Lord. Plus she's also the mistress of the 4 sacred beasts. Am I correct? Ditsong wanted to scream in protest. What does this have to do with me? Why does everyone want to frame me? The old man, on the other hand, was rather taken aback by the quick reply though. If she knows, then why did she come? Isn't she afraid of being killed when the goddess goes into a fit? Yen, I'm really innocent. I don't know who she is. Deacon urgently explains himself, afraid his wife would misunderstand and turn what little chance he has left into a big fat zero. For a while their none were speaking around the altar. Their gazes are now fully turned to the seductive man in question, and unsure what the great demon lord was speaking, since they don't know his true identity. You be quiet. Shooting a stare over to her husband, Bai Yen viciously shuts him up. You say you are the mistress of the 4 sacred beasts? Then I like to know, where are they? Pressing down the unease inside, the goddess forcibly put on a mocking snicker. My sacred beasts aren't for the likes of you to see. Nothing but an ant. Who do you think you are? Is that so? Then I will take the liberty to show my azure dragon instead. Turning sharp in the eyes, Bai Yen places 2 fingers up to her lips and blew hard, allowing the whistling sound to reach far into the sky and into everyone's ear. Almost instantly, the clouds began to dark and rumbling noises were afoot. None of these people present were able to utter a single word at this phenomenon because that rumbling roar of a dragon mixed with the booming thunderstrikes were nerve-wracking. But being frightened was one thing, being able to see the actual body of Tsing Yi's true form as another. Its massive, literally view covering with her outstretched body. For those on the weaker end of the scale, many had gone to their knees by this point. It's simply too overwhelming, like her very presence was enough to warrant the worship of these mortals. The flaunting goddess, 5. emeraldly jade as its body color. The aura which surrounds itself shined with light to indicate the good omen. These were all of the typical depictions from legends of old regarding the great azure dragon. And most importantly, they all have a powerful urge to grovel and bow before this creature, very good sign of a great being. This is it, that's exactly as the old scriptures describe the azure dragon. But what is it doing here? Isn't the sacred beast supposed to be in the celestial realm? One of the groveling individuals mindless raises the dilemma he had. What do you mean by that? Bai Yen asks with a darkened expression. Yen, the 4 sacred beasts are from the demon realm. There's no mistake in that information you got. However, after losing the war years ago, they were changed to be known as the 4 sacred beasts of the celestial realm because those hypocrites skewed the history books to their liking. Di Tsong coldly explains, clearly annoyed by the warped history. Twitching in her mouth, Bai Yen has had to hand it to those so-called celestials. They're really shameless, even worse than Muzhin. Taking advantage of the fact that the demon realm couldn't communicate with the outer world, they deliberately changed the pride of their enemies into their own to suit their needs. Coiling her body into a manageable posture, Xingyi makes a frowning face at the people below herself. Who are you? Why are you pretending to be my mistress? At this moment, the goddess's face was looking uglier than ever. First from green to white, then white to green, all forms of colors could be found due to being called out. So just because you're saying I'm an impersonator than I am? Then I like to counter you with my own question. A measly little dragon like you dares to impersonate my great azure dragon? Impersonate? Everyone was startled by the claim. In their view, this dragon fitted the ideal image of the azure dragon. Even the horns on the forehead looked exactly the same as the pictures. Compared to the indecision of everyone else, Jun Tianyu was more willing to believe her own granddaughter. This way it would prove the goddess was a fake and had been deceiving them all. Such an outcome was more to the madam's taste. Ho ho! Issuing a sarcastic laugh, Xingyu's gaze narrows into a slit of contempt. So you saying I'm not Azure Dragon is enough? Where's your evidence? First of all, everyone knows that General Azure Dragon is a man, yet you're a female and you still call yourself Azure Dragon? Without refute, Xing-Yi was a girl, and that could be discerned through the voice, so there's no denying this fact. However, only silence followed the goddess's words because none of the mortals here knew the facts, only a picture passed down from ancient times. Furthermore, Azure Dragon has passed away protecting me many years ago. Such loyalty and courage, even if I can't protect him, I won't let some upstart stroll around blemishing his name. The fake goddess was really starting to pile it up thick there. Now even this foolish lady was starting to really think she's the mistress of the 4 sacred beasts and forgot her own lies. As the old say goes, the more you say, the more you would believe it. Mother, baddie father, I've seen a lot of shameless people before, but this one really takes the cake. I never seen someone can be so thick-skinned to such a degree. It was then the youthful voice of Bai Shachen decides to cut in, leaving everyone turning their attention over to the boy. This child sure has balls. How can he say such words in front of the goddess? Many of them thought, Shachen, let your old man here handle this matter. Roughing up his boy's hair in the process, Di Tsong now has his deathly glare focused in on the one responsible for framing himself. I really like to know, when did I ever try to woo you? Unleashing an oppressive might that sent the ground crackling with pain. It's as if the air itself was screaming at the twisting energy that now seeps out of the man's body. Still oblivious to her own impending doom, the fake goddess makes a faint frown. What does he mean by that? The flaunting goddess, 6. You impersonated yourself as the mistress of the 4 sacred beasts, then framed me afterwards. Based on these points alone is enough to make me not let you off. Boom! As a result of that increasingly dangerous pressure, the goddess's initial surprised look soon changed to amazement. No, this can't be. The people of this world are all garbage. How can this man threaten me with his pressure alone? Jun Tianyu and the rest were also looking over in Di Tsong's way. Now they know, the earlier bout with the broom was nothing more than this man holding back. Otherwise, considering that strength and level of pressure, Yun Feng would have been squashed with a single finger. Are you mistaken about something? The goddess bites her lower lips, rattled by the man's ominous air. I am indeed the mistress of the 4 sacred beasts. There's no doubt about that. Also, I never mentioned anything about you trying to woo me. I'm talking about the Demon Lord and Celestial Lord. The main reason why this blasted maid from the celestial realm would dare to be so arrogant and pompous while coming to the Misty Fairy house was because none could threaten herself. But this man, though, he's different. Ignoring the explaining words that's being repeatedly shoved in his face, Deetsong suddenly swept his gaze towards the crowd. Is my father-in-law around? Womf. The one to answer was Chief Wu Wei, his voice awkward. I knocked him out earlier because I was afraid he would rush over here after finding the goddess has come. He won't be able to wake up for a while. That's good. Deetsong promptly heaved a huge sigh of relief. Regarding the father-in-law he just discovered, this great demon lord was truly afraid of him. Ignoring the fact that he's never been broomed in his entire existence, he's also unable to retaliate because the human was his wife's father. If he did, Bai Yen would never let him off, and that's something he would never want to put to the test. What do you intend to do? Bai Yen asks with a faint frown. Showing an evil grin, Deetsong wraps his arms around that soft waist to get all intimate. I want the world to know you are my wife and the only one fit to be my queen, because of how close their faces were to one another. Plus, he had deliberately lowered his voice into a whisper. Only the two were able to hear their conversation and no other. You? Slightly blushing at the embarrassing proclamation, Bai Yen decides push that naughty hand away out of reflex. Sadly, as usual, it only had the counter effect and made it tighter. For the fake goddess who's been watching this unfold before her very eyes, the woman naturally would be furious. Sadly for her, the image of the man's terrible pressure instantly stuffed any resentment she had back into that throat. Also, it was at this moment when a series of loud clamoring birds pulled the attention of those below. They're shocked, astounded even by the countless demon beasts quickly filling up the sky. What's going on here? Where did this many demon birds come from? Even if all of the demon beasts living within the Misty Fairy house wouldn't be able to match that number. What do these things intend to do? Did the goddess summon them? That must be it. The demon lord must have heard about the goddess facing grievance here. That's why the person sent his servants to our home. Then, before the initial shock of this overwhelming scene could be processed by the crowd, another series of panting and huffing could be heard from the rear. Chief, madam, things are not good. Not good. The person exclaims after overexerting themselves in order to run over.